Welcome to the Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC 326 Holloway vs. Oliveira 2. I'm your host, Ben Duffy of Sherdog.com, and with me, as usual, is Keith Schillen, the executive producer of the Sherdog Radio Network. Keith, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. First of all, I apologize for the preview being out a day late. That is because of me. I was at the Rhode Island High School Wrestling Championship all day on Sunday. I went extra long because of the big blizzard we had this week. Providence was still cleaning up the roads, so they had a parking ban. So a 2-day tournament had to turn into a 1-day tournament, and it was supposed to be Friday and Saturday. Instead, it was pushed on Sunday. So I was there supporting all my boys. As a lot of people know, I helped coach a private club. We had many champions, new state champions in both the men's and boys and the girls division. We actually would have had even more, but we had our own guys going against each other, which kind of sucks as a coach. You're like, you're happy for one kid, but devastated for the other kid, you know? But we had a bunch of medals. And then we also, in Connecticut, we had the high school wrestling state championship where we had one entry into that. He, of course, took first place, a new Connecticut state champion. And then the Connecticut youth, and we had 2 entries, and of course they both took first place. So congratulations to all my boys and girls kicking butt representing New England. So fun times.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. Okay, we're looking at UFC 326, Holloway versus Oliveira 2. Give me your overall take on this card, your letter grade in advance.
Sure.
And but actually, before you go, because we've been doing this for, at this point, 5 years plus, over 200 events, and we're used to giving these cards a letter grade based on whether they're a numbered pay-per-view event or a free fight night card. That distinction is starting to blur just 2 months and change into the new year, as this is number 326, but if you live in the US and you have Paramount Plus, it costs you the same as last week's card in Mexico. Yeah. $13 a month or whatever we're paying. So grade it based on it is the card this week.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's going to change. So the card this week, I'm going to give it like a B+.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like you want to compare it to UFC Mexico. This is way better, you know? Yeah. But I'm still viewing it as we got to get a big card every month. That's how they're using it as numbered events. If they want to get rid of numbered events and just be this week's UFC card, okay, then it obviously be different. I expect higher things. There's an embedded, there's a countdown show, there's, press media day. There's the obviously. I mean, I know there's a media day every week, but the press conference, the ceremonial weigh-ins, all the stuff that you get for the big cards. I give it a C. And that's not a knock at all on the 2 guys on the top of the card. I mean, you can't find 2 more likable, more both in and out of the cage. They're 2 of the if you don't like one of these guys, then there's something wrong with you. You know what I mean?
Completely agree.
The problem is, one, the BMF thing does nothing to me. Get rid of the belt. I'm still excited for this fight. Like, it doesn't change a single thing. You want to Charles Oliveira becomes a badass motherfucker. Okay, cool. I couldn't care less about the belt. The problem is the rest of the card gets really shallow. So you don't. I view this still as like a make believe belt. So we don't have a belt on the line on the card, and then, I mean, there's some fights on the main card that you'd usually be like a prelim fight for a big numbered event. So, but what we've been getting, I feel like I'm like satisfied, because what we've been getting, like, all right, I'll say it's a C.
I'm with you, and absolutely it is a card whose quality falls off pretty quickly below the main event. The co-main event, it's 2 interesting middleweight contenders, but it's also 2 guys coming off of pretty one-sided losses that has not a ton of immediate relevance in the title picture of that division. And then from there, there's basically no immediate divisional relevance. There's not even that random women's fight that they'll stick onto the prelims, even though the winner of the women's fight is the closest to a title shot of anybody on the whole card. That's like the buried women's contenders fight is it goes right along with the unranked heavyweight slobber knocker on just the things that UFC seems to throw onto every card. That's not the case here either. So yeah, a lot of likely action fights and a lot of likely finishes. There are some fights where even if it's not a mismatch, it's two fighters where take the under if you're a betting man because someone's getting knocked the hell out. But yeah, so basically.
Cody Brundage, his fights are always exciting.
Oh yeah,
either it's going to be a crazy stoppage or it's going to be some craziness happen. But so yeah, I agree.
And he's not even the Cody I was thinking about. There's two Codys that are going to kill or be killed on this card. Yeah,
that's a good point.
Any other general thoughts on this one before we dive into these prelims?
Yeah, I'll say this: the one time I prepared for the hey Keith, what's the non-main event fight you're most excited for? You don't ask me that. To answer that,
I am curious.
I'm really intrigued, and it's a main card. I usually don't pick a main card fight, but Raul Rojas Jr. versus Rob Font is really intriguing to me because that's a big step up in competition for Rojas. So I really want to see where he stands at such a young age. So that's a fight I'm pretty intrigued in.
I like that one a lot. I love the narrative that Michael Johnson is on a main card of a numbered UFC event in 2026, and he deserves to be there.
Yeah. So just the record. So Alex Hernandez is totally to blame for the falling out between Hernandez and Johnson fight. Obviously, that's
yeah. I'm guessing that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
First up at UFC 326, and the heaviest fight on the card, or at least tied for the heaviest, is a light heavyweight matchup between Luke Fernandez and Rodolfo Bellato. Fernandez, the 30-year-old New Jersey native, is 6-0 as a professional. This will be his UFC debut, but he fought on the Contender Series last October, knocking out Rafael Pergantino in just 15 seconds, and prior to that, he was the CFFC light heavyweight champ. He will look to go 7-0 at the expense of Bellato. Also 30 years old, hailing from Brazil. He is 12-3-1 overall with one no contest. He is 1-1-1 with one no contest in the UFC. He has already completed his bingo card. He joined the UFC as a two-time veteran of Dana White's Contender Series. He fought on season 6 as well as season 7, and he was a former LFA light heavyweight champ himself. Keith, Fernandez is a pretty comfortable favorite here. He's minus 230, Bellato plus 190. This card, it's full of some interesting things. Like, I don't know why all of the Mongolian fighters in the UFC are on this card. Maybe it was supposed to be UFC Mongolia and they just had to pull it back to Las Vegas. I don't know. It's also got a lot of jacked Brazilian guys that we saw come out of Brazil with undefeated or nearly undefeated records and very enhanced looking physiques. And they've kind of had to find their footing fighting in the UFC and fighting primarily in the States. Rodolfo Bellato is in this fight. And then we have Gregory Rodrigues and Bruno Ferreira further up the card. We have Caio Bajalio further up the card. It's that kind of card.
Yeah. Like where's Paulo Costa?
He's writing a really funny social media post somewhere right now. Bellato, I mean, he's not as good as he looked in his regional tape, but he's better than I thought he was going to be coming into the UFC. My thought on him was, oh, this guy is going to go 1-3 in his first 4. He's going to look like absolute crap and he's going to be gone. And he's at least slotted in as just another guy in that division. Fernandez is an interesting dude because he has speed and power on the feet. Like, I don't know how much of a technical wizard he is, but he knows what he's good at. He's immediately on the front foot. He's coming forward with mostly punches, but he throws in some nasty kicks and knees. He'll throw some knees in when he gets into close range. Everything hurts. And thus far, he's basically overwhelmed everyone he's fought. And that includes some not bad guys in CFFC. Bellato is much more tested against a higher level of opposition. And he is a physical hoss himself. He has big power too. But I think Bellato is going to engage Fernandez in exactly the kind of fight Fernandez wants. And I don't think it's going to work out well for him. I don't think Bellato has the defensive fundamentals or the chin to stand up what he's going to get in basically the first 2 minutes of this fight. There's always the possibility that this is a step up in competition that's too much too soon for Fernandez, and Bellato wastes him. Like I'm picking Fernandez by first round knockout, but like I've said about plenty of fights before, my second most likely outcome is Bellato by first round knockout. Like these seem like two guys that don't really know how to take a step back. I think it's going to be a complete slobber knocker, and give me Fernandez to be the one standing at the end of it.
Yeah, this I think it should be. You're right. I think it should be a fun fight to start it off. I mean, Bellato, he's a big guy for the weight class. That's the thing. Now the problem is he's slow. He's very lumbering. He's so far his run in the UFC, his output has been very inconsistent. Sometimes he's letting his hands go. Sometimes he's throwing single strikes. His hands are slow. I think his power is overrated. I'd say he has like plus power at best. He's very hittable. He keeps his chin high. He only moves his head like straight back. I mean, he was eating a lot of shots from Ian Pretoria. He was struggling with the speed of Pretoria. He hates being pressured. The best part of his striking game is probably his calf kicks. Now, he will close the distance and battle in the clinch. He's a big guy. I like his plum clinch. I like his dirty boxing. Pretty busy in there. He will try to sneak in a takedown, but he's not very good at it. If he gets on top, like I said, he's a big, strong guy. He's got some good ground and pound. He's a decent grappler. He's got 4 submission wins. He is a big guy, so he's hard to take down. But if you get him down, he really struggles to get off the bottom. Now, Fernandez, he had this brilliant 15-second knockout KO on the Contender Series. He, like you said, he throws hard, really steps into his shots. The problem is he winds up a lot. I like that he winds up, but he'll go to the body a lot, which is good. He can close the distance, and he also has a very solid plum clinch. He's a former D3 wrestler, so he's got some good entries. He likes to get to his opponent's hips and just pick them up and slam them. Hard ground and pound, busy ground and pound. Yeah, I agree. These guys are very similar. I'm not very high in Bellato, so I'm with you. I'm leaning Fernandez. I don't think the betting lines really tells the story. I think this fight, because of the holes in both things, I think it could be much closer. I say we have a lot of big shots thrown, like you said. I'll say that Fernandez can duck under some of those shots, get some takedowns on top, let in big shots. I'm going to say Fernandez gets a second-round TKO, as Bellato is actually completely gassed from like a high-paced fight. But yeah, Fernandez by second-round TKO.
Next up on the UFC 326 prelims is a featherweight contest between Jeong Lee and Gaston Bolanos. Lee, the 30-year-old Korean, is 11-3 overall. He is 1-2 since joining the UFC out of the first season of Road to UFC. It's a confusing thing. Like, he came out of Road to UFC, so if you count all of his Road to UFC fights, he's like 4-2. I think he should at least be 2-2, because the thing that's strange about Road to UFC is when you fight on The Ultimate Fighter, all of your fights in the house are considered exhibitions, and then when you fight at the finale at whatever UFC event it is, that counts as a UFC fight. They haven't been making those count for the Road to UFC fighters. So Jeong Lee has fought 4 times on UFC events, but the UFC is only counting 3 of them. It's a little strange. At any rate, officially 1-2 in the UFC. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, dating back almost 2 full years at this point. You go back to summer of 2024, he got knocked out by Haider Emil in what I think was Emil's UFC debut, then came back last May at UFC 315 and dropped a unanimous decision to Daniel Santos. He is stepping in on relatively short notice here for his countryman, whose name completely escapes me right now. I'm usually pretty good with names, but he's stepping in on short notice against Bolanos. 33-year-old Peruvian by way of California is 8-5 overall. He is 2-2 since joining the UFC as a longtime Bellator homegrown talent and mainstay. He is coming in off a loss. He fought Kwang Lee last May at UFC on ESPN, Sandhagen versus Figueiredo, where he got choked out in the second round. So he'll be looking to bounce back from that, get back above 500 in the UFC. He is not favored to do so. Lee's your favorite, Keith. Take a guess what the line is on him, if you would.
It's got to be big because when you ask me to take a guess, negative 250.
That is close enough for horseshoes. I have him down at minus 260, Bolanos okay. Plus 215.
I was told that I have to say minus. I always say negative. Minus.
Yes, it's minus.
I'm coming off as a casual.
Well, you are a casual when it comes to the betting part.
I talk like 3 hours a week at fights, but yes, yeah. I am a casual when it comes to betting.
It's interesting because Jeong Lee is a little bit of a callback to the classic South Korean fighter that if you've been a fan of the sport since the early to mid 2000s, you remember the South Korea would always send fighters out to Asian promotions into the UFC that had technical acumen, but fought like maniacs once they got in the cage. Like it's just a bunch of skinny Vanderlei Silva clones. And here he's going against a guy in Bolanos that is a very Peruvian style fighter, and Peru is kind of the new Korea as far as the fighters they send. These people are coming up in gyms and in regional promotions that just encourage pathological aggression, and because of that, this is going to be a real fun fight. However long they're both on the feet, I think it's going to be appointment viewing. Both of these guys have problems. Like Haider Emil destroyed Jeong Lee just by being more fundamentally sound, throwing straight punches, not getting put on his back foot by the axe murderer style advance, and just plunked him in the face like 3 or 4 times cleanly, and Jeong Lee was dead. That's not a huge concern to me. Haider Emil has turned out to be a pleasant surprise in the UFC, and he's always going to be poison for a less technical fighter who just runs straight at him swinging wildly. It's a little more concerning that he couldn't keep up the pace against Daniel Santos, who was just kind of a very mid-level another guy in that division. But yeah, he's just another dude. So it's more concerning that he lost to him. But I mean, Bolanos, he's a fun guy to have in the UFC, but he was never even one of the 5 or 6 best guys in Bellator in his weight division, and those were not especially strong weight divisions for Bellator. He's just another dude, and he has a known problem. I don't know if this is some kind of record, but he has 3 submission losses in his career, and they are all technical submissions. Gaston Bolanos, for a guy whose nickname is the Dream Killer, likes to take a nap, and I kind of think that's what's happening here. Because
I like to take a nap too. So
yeah, I like to take a nap too, but I don't wait for like a Korean guy to choke me out to do it. And I think that's what's going to happen on Saturday.
Yeah, we had a couple of Korean girls choke me out before. So
okay. I am sad that I missed the Damian Penis recap. Anyway, I predict just a wild back and forth first round. It is probably good for Lee that I don't think either of these guys has the power to just starch the other. So to me, it almost doesn't matter who wins the first round. I think by the second round, they'll both have slowed a little bit. And at some point, one of these collisions is going to end up with these guys on the ground. And Lee is just, he's a better grappler. And we've seen what happens when people take Bolanos' back. So give me Jeong Lee by second round submission here. And I don't think there's a prop for technical submission versus regular submission, because then for all you know, you're betting on someone to get their arm broken. But but if you find one, you know that Bolanos is going to take the nap. So give me Jeong Lee by second round submission.
I'll tell you right now, man. I'll give you your props if he chokes him out. That would be pretty impressive if you call that. Yeah, I mean this is how I feel about like this entire card. Like there is a lot of action, like you said. This will be an action fight, but divisional relevance is there is none. Yeah, especially in the Bolanos case. Well, you know, Bolanos was like 33.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he's gonna have a career turnaround. He fights out of both stances. He's definitely He's definitely better from the outside when he can stay composed, behind the high guard defense. The problem is his striking has been really inconsistent. Some fights he looks sensational. All the fights he looks poor. He does cut angles well. He's got some quick hands. He's got good power. He has 6 TKOs. He'll throw out some fun spinning attacks. Best part of his striking is his kicking game, big kicking game. I like his teep kicks, his calf kicks. Problem is defense has been an issue. He lacks head movement. He will wrestle a little, but he's not a wrestler by any means. And he's a bad defensive wrestler. We saw that in his last fight. Struggles to get off the bottom. Like Quang Lee easily held him down and then quickly subbed him. Young Lee, I don't have a good read on him, and that's because he's been very inconsistent. He is a high output striker. He does set up his shots well with feints. He's quick. He's good at beating his opponents to the point of contact. I like his straight right. But when he looks for power punches, he will really load up. Now he has decent power, so he can connect. I like his stepping knees. I think he needs to throw those more. Now he's not a bad offensive wrestler, but I wouldn't say he's a good one. But he is a weak defensive wrestler. If taken down, he will quickly get back to his feet, which I do like. He has a big submission threat. He loves like arm bars. His cardio has been an issue. I mean, he, like you mentioned, he gassed out in multiple fights, including his last fight against Daniel Santos. And you have to worry about his chin. Like, he didn't just get knocked out by Hyder or Mill. Like, it was like one of the biggest punching combinations I've ever seen. It's like one of those like when I'm playing my son in video games, and he's doing like a triple combination on me, and I'm just hitting the B button and see and throwing the same like low kick over and over again. So as far as prediction goes, I'm not high on either. That said, Bolanos, I mean, he's so bad on the ground. I can see Lee getting a submission. So I'm not going to be as bold as you and say he's going to choke him out cold. Though if the submission's in, I'm going to be rooting for that. Give me Lee to take Bolanos down, and I say he subs him. I'll see you in the second round.
The light heavyweights take the cage next at UFC 326 as Rafael Tobias makes his UFC debut against Diyar Nurgozhay. Tobias, the 22-year-old Brazilian, is 14-1 overall. He fought on the Contender Series last fall, choking out Jair de Oliveira in the first round. This will be his UFC debut, and standing across from him will be Nurgozhay. 28-year-old from Kazakhstan is 10-2 overall. He's 0-2 since joining the UFC out of Season 8 of Dana White's Contender Series. He fought back in fall of 2024. He fought twice in the UFC last year, getting tapped out both times. Tapped out by Brundage and Ribeiro in March, then Uran Sadabaldiev in August. A rare Ezekiel choke submission that we definitely haven't seen since we lost good old Alexei Olenek. He'll still be looking for his first UFC win. He is not favored to get it, as Tobias is a comfortable minus 240, Nurgozhay plus 190 coming back. I've got to say right off the bat that Tobias has one of the weirdest and worst nicknames to come across the UFC in a while. Like bipolar, maybe we're losing something in translation, because here's the thing. I'm already not super comfortable with making mental health issues into mascots, like when people call themselves like psycho or murder or this, but it's whatever. It's fight talk. But bipolar, you're modeling yourself after, I don't know, like a woman that's putting like a sports car on her credit card one day and then like eating ice cream and crying on the couch the next day. Like bipolar is it's a weird thing to label yourself, even if you really are.
Just keep changing it next one and be like schizophrenic. Just a little anxiety.
Yeah.
Rafael, just a little anxiety, Tobias.
Some fighters on this card could probably stand to change their nickname to depression, but we'll get to them when we get to them. Tell me what you think of the 22-year-old Brazilian as a prospect and how you think this fight goes. Oh yeah, I already said the odds. Tobias, big favorite.
Yeah. He's got the right opponent to be, when you're 22 making a UFC debut. Nurgozhay, I know, am I saying that name right?
Nurgozhay? Yeah,
I'm not even close. Maybe I'm I keep dyslexic chilling over here. How do I say his first name?
Diyar or Diyar? Yeah,
Oh,
Diyar Nurgozhay.
Diyar Nurgozhay. He does this like weird face wipe constantly thing. It's so weird. I say it every time he fights. So his name should be Diyar the Tick Nurgozhay. He's southpaw.
Dude, if we had like bipolar against Tourette syndrome, like in the cage, that would be, yeah.
Oh, dude, I was riding the bus once with like someone who had Tourette's, and it was so freaking weird.
It's awkward, dude. It's difficult to be around.
It was like so anyway, and then I'll say this someone I know, I can't give too many details because I don't want to put on the blast. I love this person, but I was in an office, we'll say, with somebody, and they go, "Yep." Like every once in a while, they have Tourette's, but they won't admit they have Tourette's. They'll say it's they'll say it's a burp, and I'm like, I've never heard a burp in my life like that. So she'll go, "Yep," and then she'll go, "Oh, excuse me," and it's like, yeah, you don't. Luckily, it's not like every 30 seconds. It's just a couple times a day. But, anyways, it shows you how much I want to talk about Nurgozhay. So he's a southpaw, not a very good athlete. He's very plodding. He's a low output striker. Way too many single strikes. To his credit, he is actually one of the fighters on the card that I'm going to say this about. He actually has pretty good head movement. He uses it to kind of counter strike. He loves his overhand left. He looks for uppercuts inside. He does have some good power. He really steps into his shots. He has 6 TKOs. Big kicking game, a lot of calf kicks. He's got an incredible high kick on the Contender Series. Though he is open to calf kicks himself. He can wrestle, but I think his wrestling is overrated. He will like catch a kick and get the fight down that way. He is hard to hold down himself, and he has 2 submission wins. Now, I said like a lot of okay stuff about him technically. The problem is he's just not a good athlete, so he's still kind of slow. Tobias, like you said, he's only 22. You love that. I like his striking. He's well rounded. He feints really well, especially one of the guys who feints with his legs. So I love that. The one knock about his striking, while he's fairly fast and fairly technical, he'll throw way too many single strikes. But I like that he has good power on his feet already, only at 22 years old. He will take the fight to the ground. He likes body lock takedowns. He's got some good top control if he gets the fight to the ground. Easily moves position on the ground, good ground and pound, and he's a big submission artist. So I said he's well-rounded, and he's young. But I probably should, like, just because you're well-rounded, he definitely is more of a grappler than he is a striker. I just want to point that out. Like, the skill that really impressive is grappling. So I don't want people to be like, oh, he's a big grappler. What are you talking about? Nurgozhay, he's been stopped in back-to-back fights. I think it happens again. I say Tobias gets a second-round submission.
Yeah, I agree with the entire scouting report on Nurgozhay in particular. And coming to the UFC undefeated and having really handled a lot of his opponents, I saw good upside in him. But as you point out, he has, well, I mean, you said it about Tobias, but I think of Nurgozhay as a guy that has well-rounded skills as well. But you said it, he doesn't have the athleticism to make it work. Like he's, I don't know, like a giant Zhalgas Zhumagulov, where you can't point to any part of the MMA skill set that he's really terrible at, except apparently submission defense once he gets to this level. But just hasn't been able to really make it run against UFC level light heavyweights. And I don't know how I feel about Tobias as a prospect. This is 205, so it doesn't take that much to kind of break into top 15-ish matchups. But for me, it's as simple as he is a good fluid grappler on the ground. We saw on the Contender Series just how quick and airtight his back control is. And yeah, I think that's all that's that really matters about this matchup. Yes, one of them could catch the other with a huge shot and turn the fight on its head, but failing that, Nurgozhay is a come forward guy, and he's a guy that will shoot takedowns when he doesn't like what he's getting on the feet. That's not a good idea against Tobias. I expect he's going to get tapped out. You said second round. I'm actually going to say first round. It's, he's going to shoot an ill-advised takedown, or we're going to end up in some sort of collision where Tobias just sort of body locks and trips him. And once they're on the ground, even if they hit the ground in a neutral position, or hell, even if they hit the ground with Nurgozhay on top briefly, I think it's going to be over quickly from there. Tobias will either sweep or smack him around a little bit, take the back, and choke him out. So I have got Tobias by first round submission. Next up on the UFC 326 prelims, it is a boy named Sue versus a man named Jesus, as Mudaerji and Jesus Santos Aguilar meet in a men's flyweight scrap. Mudaerji, 30-year-old from China, is 18-7 overall. He is 5-4 since joining the UFC out of Wulin Feng. He is on a 2-fight win streak dating back to the beginning of last year. He picked up a split decision over Mitch Raposo in April, then came back in August and won a unanimous decision over Kevin Borjas. That put his 3-fight losing streak against top 15-ish type competition in the rear view. He would love to earn another shot at ranked opponents. He would need to get past Aguilar in order to do so. Aguilar, 29-year-old Mexican, 12-3 overall, 4-2 since joining the UFC out of season 6 of Dana White's Contender Series. He is coming in off a win. He fought at Noche UFC last September, where he won a unanimous decision over Luis Gouroulet. Odds here favor the man from Tibet pretty heavily. Mudaerji minus 250, Jesus Santos Aguilar plus 200. Man, I want Jesus Santos Aguilar to win enough fights to stay in the UFC. But you and I talk about this a lot. Like, we don't really have any rooting interest.
No.
For the most part. Like, I prefer my picks to be right, but ultimately, sure, I just want the most fun fights. And as you mentioned, I want stuff that's going to be interesting to talk about on the recap. I want something that I'm still thinking about on Monday morning. I want Jesus Santos Aguilar to win at least enough fights to stay in the UFC, just because he's kind of a unique guy with a unique skill set. And it's actually remarkable that he's 4-2 in the UFC. Like, it's hard to plot the route to that good a record in that division for a guy with Aguilar's strengths and limitations. I mean, he is a short little tank of a flyweight. He's like 5'3" by the tail of the tape, and I think that might actually be legit. He's got that, kind of ironically, he's like a Mexican team alpha male guy, just a short, stocky, burly dude who has a ton of submissions, and most of them come off of his front headlock series. Like, what's he got? 8 or 9 submissions, 7 submissions, and I think like 5 or 6 of them are by guillotine. That and swinging real hard, just, crashing the pocket and throwing lots of big punches is kind of his whole game. And it's remarkable that he's done as well as he has. Mudaerji is kind of the opposite. It's like, as young as he was when he got to the UFC, and with the physical tools and some of the skills that he flashed, it's like, how are you barely over 500 in the UFC? Like, you should be killing people. But for me, like, this comes down to Mudaerji just being so much bigger, because he is a big flyweight, like a tall, rangy guy who hits with good power. And while he only has one career submission and he has a bunch of submission losses, this is going to haunt me. I know it's going to haunt me on the recap, but he's not as much of a dummy on the ground as you would think of a guy with like 13 knockout victories and 6 submission losses. Like, he is capable of taking care of himself on the ground. I don't think he should be a greater than 2-1 favorite against Aguilar, because again, it would just take one standing guillotine, up against the fence or at close range. Aguilar, jumps guard, squeezes, and the fight's over. But I like Mudaerji to kind of hold on and win a decision. Just keeping Aguilar on the outside, outstriking him at range for at least 2 out of 3 rounds. So give me Mudaerji by decision in this one.
Yeah, yeah, this is intriguing fight. I agree with you about the odds alone. Just like you said, like if Aguilar wins, he wins by finish. So a most likely avenue, I should say, is a finish for him. So he has that ace up the hole that he can finish the fight. Mudaerji, he's definitely, I agree with you said, about more well-rounded. He's a southpaw. I'd say he's a pretty good athlete. Taekwondo style, moves well, long-range striker. I'd say he's a good striker. He likes to stick and move. He also likes to counter strike. I like his hand speed. He's got some nice snap on his shots. He's got a good jab. He throws a lot of jabs. His straight left is very clean. Against Matt Snell, he couldn't miss it. He is good at beating his opponents to the point of attack. I'd say he's not known for his big power, but I'd say he's got some decent power. Good kicking game. Loves those kicks to the body and to the calves. He'll throw out like a Stephen Thompson hook kick. He can close the distance and he can grind and clinch. Like you said, he's tall. He's landed powerful elbows against Matt Snell in the clinch. He uses those long arms to frame really well. He will look for takedowns, but he's definitely not a wrestler. His takedown defense has been improving. But if you take him down, he's got a good get-up game. If he's the one on top, I like his ground and pound. Now, I am a little worried about his submission defense. I mean, he has been sub 5 times, but I do agree overall, like he's not a fish on the ground. I mean, he almost caught Charles Johnson in a triangle choke and a Darce choke. Aguilar, I mean, he's a short, stocky guy. He likes to press the action, nice volume. He's brawling on the feet. I've seen him throw so hard that he almost knocked himself over trying to land shots. And he did that in his last fight. He throws a lot of big power shots. He connects. He has power. He throws a bunch of hard kicks. His defense isn't good, though. He's very hittable. He eats a lot of shots. He will look for takedowns, and I actually like his entries. Well, sometimes he'll shoot from too far away without a setup. He will look for throws, but a lot of times he doesn't have the best posture, so he'll end up on bottom. But he really doesn't care. He wants to get the fight to the ground where he can scramble. He does need to improve his overall top game, but he does have good ground and pound. And then obviously he has that legendary guillotine choke. I think he's got 5. He's constantly jumping for it. He won the contender series with it. He is a weak defensive wrestler because he's so aggressive, just walk right into takedowns. And he'll struggle on those bottoms. So that's why like him giving up takedowns, I don't think is a good strategy. So I'm with you. Aguilar definitely has a chance to win. But I really give that guillotine his only chance. I mean, I like Mudaerji. I think he's better than Aguilar really everywhere. I see Mudaerji maybe landing good shots from distance, kicking Aguilar's leg. Give me Mudaerji by decision.
We stay in the flyweight division on the UFC 326 undercard as Cody Durden tries to right the ship against Nyamjargal Tumendemberel. Durden, the 34-year-old Atlanta native, is 17-9-1 overall. He is 6-7-1 in the UFC, and he's lost 5 of his last 6. He's on a 3-fight losing streak at this point, dating back over a full year. We saw him most recently in November at UFC Fight Night Garcia versus Onama, where he got tapped out in the second round by Alan Nascimento. So quite possibly fighting for his job here. He'll need to get past Tumendemberel in order to keep it. 27-year-old from Mongolia is 9-1 overall. He is 0-1 in the he's 0-1 in the UFC, and this is another weird Road to UFC thing where he has been on 2 different seasons of Road to UFC, season 2 and season 4. Only one of those fights ended up being an official UFC fight, and he happened to lose that one. That was to Carlos Fernandez back 15 months ago. He actually fought last August in Road to UFC, choking out Terrence Saturn in the first round, but his only official UFC fight was a loss. So who knows? At any rate, odds on this fight fairly close, so I will quiz you on it, Keith. Your favorite is minus 160, underdog plus 130. Who are they?
Oof. Darden's the favorite?
He is actually the underdog. Nyamjargal Tumendemberel minus 160, Cody Durden plus 130. talk about somebody that feels like a better, more skilled fighter than his record indicates. Durden is under 500 in the UFC at this point. Like I said, he's lost 5 of his last 6. If he hadn't stepped up on short notice in his fight against Nascimento in November, if that had just been a regular scheduled bout, he probably would have lost his job then. Like, flyweight doesn't need people that badly, but he wisely stepped up and kind of did the UFC and Nascimento a solid. And here we see him back. I've not entirely jumped off the Cody Durden bandwagon, but I do recognize him for what I think he is. And what he is a very old school wrestle boxer. Like, he's a big flyweight. I mean, he's not even, he's fought at 130 and 135 pounds in the UFC and was not especially undersized in those fights, but he's a big flyweight. He's a pretty good athlete. He hits with power, throws a good variety of strikes. He is a good wrestler who has a knack for diving straight into submissions or bad spots on the ground. Just very much like an early aughts, wrestling.
It's like a Mikey Burnett.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And could you see Cody Durden in some tough houses? Yeah. Dude, Mikey Burnett is a whole story and a whole saga. Yeah. I would much rather talk about Mikey Burnett for the next hour than some of these fights, but
he's got to be on a body cast somewhere right now.
I'm probably. Could I see Durden pulling a Mikey Burnett and just knocking himself out by like ramming his head through a door in the tough house? I absolutely could. He seems like that kind of guy, but you look at the people that have beaten Durden recently, and some of them are just really good fighters. Josh Van, Bruno Silva, Tagiru Lumbekov. Some of them are just okay fighters, and Durden imploded. Alan Nascimento. Like, there is enormous upset potential here. I'm glad the line is as close as it is. And if you're watching this, you just heard Keith guess that Durden was the favorite because Tumendemberel, he's young and he's an athlete. He has some standout skills, but he's super untested. Like, his one career loss is to somebody that I don't think of as any better than Cody Durden, and there was no smoke and mirrors to that. He got beat. I think Durden either kind of beats up and bullies Tumendemberel for 3 rounds, or he beats him up for somewhere between 1 and 3 rounds and then implodes and gets tapped out. I'm going to go with the slight upset here. Give me Cody Durden back against the wall, fighting a much less experienced fighter to kind of remind us what he's good at. I think Durden probably hurts Tumendemberel a few times on the feet, or makes him feel the power to the point that we see it change the younger guy's game plan. Give me Durden to maybe get a couple of clean takedowns and do some work on the ground without diving straight into a front headlock. And Durden gets the win, gets the bonus, keeps his job. Durden by decision.
Wow. I just guess Durden was the favorite because, I mean, yes, he has lost badly, but he's lost to good fighters. Like the guys that he lost to, I mean, there's not a single bum on that list. I mean, one of them.
They're all better than the guy that Tumendemberel lost to.
Yeah, and he's lost 5 or 6, but, and he's on a 3-fight losing streak. One of those losses is to the current champion. So, and he made it to the decision against the current champion of the division. So, Durden, Durden's fun. Like, whether you like him or not, he's a fun guy to watch. He's a high output guy, constantly moving forward, quick hands, works on a nice jab, gets in the pocket. He follows that jab into the pocket, and that's when he's unloading big shots. He hits hard. Now he's been knocking a bunch of guys out, but he's also eating shots and not reacting to shots well. He's good at throwing first, slipping the counter, and then throwing third. He loves his counter right hand. He also likes to throw like an overhand, check that out, overhand right. He throws some hard shots, some hard kicks. He actually checks leg kicks, which I like. He can wrestle. He should go back to his wrestling roots a little bit more and wrestle more. When he's wrestling, he's relentless with his takedowns. He chains takedowns together well. Good top control. Good overall grappling, busy ground and pound. Great like head attacks with his submissions. He caught Machinell in a super slick ninja choke. He needs to improve. For a wrestler, he needs to improve his overall takedown defense. It's not that good. When he's getting taken down and give up his back to get up, he needs to improve his submission defense. He's been sub 3 times in the UFC. To his credit, he did show extreme toughness to get out of a very deep armbar against Jake Hadley. He's been, like I mentioned earlier, he's been hurt in a bunch of fights and not reacted well. That's durability is something I'm concerned. Tumendemberel, he fights like a madman. He's a brawler. He throws everything hard, really sits on his punches. He loads up a lot. He can overthrow his punches, so he's easy to be countered. But he does hit very hard. Like I said, he overthrows his punches, so there's not much defense, so he's very hittable. He will try to sneak in a takedown, but he isn't really good despite having a judo and sambo background. He's a bad defensive wrestler. If he gets on top, he needs to improve his overall control. He's kind of wild on top. Unleashing good ground and pound. He can get his submission. He's got 5 subs, but he's one of these guys who gets his hips moving a lot and loses position. Kind of similar to Durden. I like his cardio, though. He doesn't really slow down for a guy that fights like a wild man. So both guys have power. If Tumendemberel wins, I think it's likely knocks Durden out early because I don't trust Durden's durability. Durden could also win by a KO, but maybe his best avenue for victory, I still think, is to wrestle. I want to say Durden, with his back against the wall, I say he goes back to his roots. He wrestles. We have a consensus upset pick. I'm going to take Durden by decision. And I just want to say something. We didn't say this in the opening. How about the consensus upset pick last week in the main event, dude? Nobody was taking Kavanaugh. People were complaining about this guy getting a main event, saying, "Oh my God, he's going to beat Brandon Moreno after he got knocked out by Charles Johnson and all this." Don't ever go against this consensus upset pick of me and Mr. Duffy.
Thank you. Next up on the UFC 326 prelims is a featherweight matchup between Ricky Turcios and Alberto Montes. Turcios, the 32-year-old Houstonian, is 12-5 overall. He is 2-3 since joining the UFC as a veteran of the very first season of Dana White's Contender Series. In fact, he lost on the Contender Series to the first person ever signed out of the Contender Series, Boston Salmon. At any rate, he is also the bantamweight winner of season 29 of The Ultimate Fighter, and as I said, is 2-3 since then, and he's on a 2-fight losing streak, the first losing streak of any kind of his entire career. That's the bad news. The worst news is that the most recent of those losses was over a year ago. It was against Bernardo Sopai at UFC 311 last January. So he's been on the shelf ever since, stepping back into the cage here, up a weight class, looking to turn his fortunes around against Montes. 31-year-old Venezuelan training out of South Florida is 11-1 overall. This will be his UFC debut. He fought on the Contender Series back in 2024, on season 8. He choked out Carlos Calderon in the second round, was signed to the UFC. He's been on the shelf ever since. He was actually scheduled to make his debut last April or May, and he was forced to withdraw. Let me give the odds, and then I'll talk a little more on that. Montes is your moderate favorite to win. He's minus 185, Turcios plus 160. So Alberto Montes has been on the shelf for almost a year and a half, and that's kind of the story of his career. He's only 31 years old, but he has had multiple injury layoffs of over a year. In fact, from 2015 to 2021, so 5 full years, he only fought once that whole time. He was actually supposed to fight on the Contender Series back in season 2 or something and had to withdraw with an injury. So he's been a guy that's been on the he's been on the doorstep of being in the UFC since he was like 25 years old. He's 31 at this point, finally making the walk, and is a moderate favorite to get it done. I will recuse myself from giving a prediction on this one. Ricky Turcios trains at my same gym. I consider him a friend. And again, just to avoid any possibility of dishing insider information, I'm just going to recuse myself completely. I'll just say, Go, Ricky. Keith, tell us who wins this fight now.
Yeah, I'm gonna excuse myself too, because me and Mr. Reyes, the reason why he was out for so long, we were on vacation together. We were on a pilgrimage together. We actually were backpacking Europe together. So no, I mean Turcios, he is, you know what he is. He's a wicked fun fighter. He's super unorthodox, constantly switching stances. He's an old school hold your ground instead of being pressured back upon. Like you go forward on him, he's not going to back down. He'll swing it out. Opponents have a hard time picking up his timing, all because he does all these crazy things. He will load up a lot on his punches, but they're like wild, kind of like Tim Elliott style striking. But he beats guys with output. He has better hand speed than I originally thought. He throws a lot of big combinations. His right hand from his right like check hook from the southpaw stance is probably his best strike. He will blend kicks into his combinations together well. He's taken a lot of damage over the years, so that's something I'm really worried about. Like I'm worried his durability will fade quickly. And I mean, all these notes are what I said last time we were supposed to fight Cameron Smotherman. But if his durability fades, his entire game will fade, because that's how he beats, or at least his entire striking, I should say, will fade, because that's how what he's built off of. But he's super tough.
I mean, would it be fair to say it's going to look like the Tony Ferguson thing, where as soon as he couldn't fight that fight anymore, it got ugly real fast?
Yeah, exactly, yeah, and that's the kind of thing we have to say about Tony Ferguson. I mean, he in his prime, he still got hurt in every fight. You know what I mean? Turcios, his grappling is good. It's very unorthodox. He's more of a guy, he'll shoot takedowns and blast through your hips, but he's more of a guy who's just going to chain attempts together well and just kind of create a big scramble and keep his hips moving and end up in better positions. Now, he's a bad defensive wrestler. He's been taken down a lot. He is a submission threat off his back, very active tossing up submissions. But because of that, he'll lose positions, looking for subs. But his biggest strength, I should say, is really his cardio. I mean, his cardio is off the charts. Montes, yeah, he's been super inactive, and it's really hard to get excited about a 31-year-old making his UFC debut. Now, he is light on the feet. He has a very karate style to his striking, pretty elusive, likes to dart in and dart out before the counters. Does make the mistake of throwing way too many single strikes. He will also load up a little bit too much. He has hard kicks. He will look for takedowns, but he's definitely more like a BJJ grappler than a wrestler. He does have 6 submission wins. He loves Anaconda shows, a bit of a like go-to submission. As far as prediction, I'm not high on either. I think the line should be very close. Like I think the line is off. I think I think this should be a pick'em. I like, especially because of both guys. I mean, Turcios has been out for a while. Reyes has been so inactive. They're both kind of big question marks. Turcios has the volume and the wrestling advantage, while I think Reyes has the overall like submission grappling advantage, which is pretty funny because considering Turcios is pretty good there. I am worried about Turcios' durability. I say we get some fun action. I think we have some like epic scrambles. I think eventually Montes actually catches Turcios in a submission. I'll say he does it in the third, really late in a pretty fun scrap.
Next up at UFC 326 is a middleweight matchup between Donte Johnson and late notice replacement Cody Brundage. Johnson, the 27-year-old Wisconsinite, is 7-0 as a professional. He's 1-0 since joining the UFC out of Season 9 of Dana White's Contender Series. He fought on the Contender Series last August, then made his UFC debut last November, where he tapped out Cedric Dumas in the second round. He's back in the cage here, looking to go 8-0 as a professional. He had been scheduled to take on Dusko Todorovic. Todorovic fell off the card about 2-3 weeks ago, and in steps Brundage. 31-year-old Michigan native is 11-8-1 with one no contest overall. He is 5-7-1 with one no contest since joining the UFC as a veteran of season 4 of the Contender Series. He actually lost on the Contender Series, was later signed anyway, and as I said before, 5-7-1 with one no contest since then. Odds here, unsurprisingly, favor the younger man pretty heavily. Johnson is the biggest favorite on the card. He's minus 600. Brundage plus 425. This is going to sound...
Ben.
Yeah.
I'm hitting the fast pass.
Outstanding. Johnson, round 1 KO.
I will go... I know I was looking at the fast pass. I didn't look at my notes. I just copy a first round KO for Johnson.
Next up at UFC 326, and at least as the card is constituted as of the beginning of fight week, the top prelim is a men's bantamweight matchup between Cody Garbrandt and Xiao. Garbrandt, the 34-year-old Ohio native, is 14-7 overall. He is 9-7 in the UFC, and he is, of course, the former UFC bantamweight champ. He won the title at this point over 9 years ago against Dominic Cruz. Since then, it's been a rougher run. He is, I think, 3-7 since winning the title from Cruz. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, including his lone cage appearance of last year, where he came out on the wrong end of a unanimous decision against Hani Barcelos. Obviously, former champs, especially ones who briefly seem to be the future face of the promotion, get a little more rope than most fighters, but there's every possibility that Garbrandt is fighting for his continued employment here, and in order to keep it, he's going to have to turn back Xiao. 27-year-old from China is 27-10 overall. He is 1-2 since joining the UFC as the former WLF bantamweight champ, as a veteran of season 5 of Dana White's Contender Series, where he actually lost, and through the second season of Road to UFC. So he's been kind of circling the building, checking all the doors, finally made it to the UFC in 2024. And since then, he's 1-2, including a loss in his most recent appearance, which was last August at UFC, I think it was Macau. It was the Walker versus Jeong card, where he lost a unanimous decision to Su Young Yu. Odds are fairly close, so I will quiz you on them. Keith, your favorite is minus 150, underdog plus 125. Who are they?
I will say that the underdog is Cody Garbrandt.
You are correct. Xiao minus 150, Cody Garbrandt plus 125. Here's the thing. This is the hardest kind of fight to pick for me, because I feel as though I have a pretty good handle on their general skill sets, but it's just impossible to trust Cody Garbrandt at this point. Well, for better or for worse, it's impossible to trust him to fight well, but it's also impossible to just predict that he's going to go out and suck, because he has moments in almost all of these fights where you can see the ghost of the guy that once had the best hands in the entire UFC. Like when he had his fight with Cruz, which again, just one of the greatest title fight performances in UFC history that goes unsung because it didn't end in like a crazy knockout or anything. Like, he was one of the best strikers in the sport and maybe the best boxer in the entire sport. Just great hands, good power that came without, overextending himself, just came from his natural athleticism and good technique. And on top of that, was a good wrestler. He's a guy that, I'm not saying it's a good thing overall, but it's a good thing when you're scouting a future MMA fighter where, oh yeah, he was a college wrestler and got kicked out of college for getting in too many fights. Like, yeah, not a good overall trait, but good if you're scouting. Garbrandt's problem was and continues to be that despite being the better technical boxer than literally every single one of his opponents, including Dominic Cruz and TJ Dillashaw, he just will needlessly get into brawls that even in his prime, his chin couldn't necessarily carry him through. And at this point, the chin is going. He's still an offensively potent fighter. Just the fight IQ never got better. The durability has gotten worse, but I mean, it's not that long ago that he caught Brian Kelleher, who normally is an extremely durable guy, and just blasted him, like one-shotted him in the first round. Garbrandt was always a better wrestler than grappler. He, like, at his best, he kind of used his wrestling in reverse, but his defensive liabilities on the ground have become more and more pronounced. Obviously, Davis and Figueiredo tapped him out. Hani Barcelos kind of pushed him around. Having said all that, it sounds mean to say this, but this is kind of a has been versus never was. Like, Xiao is just not that good. For a guy that could conceivably have been in the UFC 6 years ago and is still just 27, he's just never been that good. I feel as though he's gone a long ways just on how good we all assumed he could be. Like, he's a good-sized bantamweight. He's a good athlete, but he's super hittable. He's a good grappler that's not the best offensive wrestler, so he has to rely on his opponent's mistakes or just opportunistic moments to really get his ground game going. I'm talking way longer than I need to on this because I keep waiting for my brain to tell me not to take Garbrandt in the upset. My brain has remained silent, so give me Garbrandt in the upset. If there's one thing Cody Garbrandt can still do, it's punch a guy cleanly in the face a couple times in the first 3 minutes of a fight. If he does that to Long Xiao, there's a chance that the whole thing's over. There's also a chance that Xiao just goes inert for the rest of the fight, and we find him like losing a distance striking match to a guy that he has reach on, and Garbrandt just stays upright the whole time and wins a decision in a fight that's not as exciting as we would have hoped. I'm tempted to take the knockout, but just give me Garbrandt by decision. I think even now he's, if not the better fighter, close enough to make this feel like it should be a toss-up. Give me Garbrandt by decision.
In fairness, you've always been huge on Cody Garbrandt, and you've been saying this is the fight that he's going to turn it around. He's going to go back on an epic run. Cody Garbrandt, he, to me, is going to have his own like spot in MMA history because, I mean, other than who's I can't think of his name right now, the Brazilian that TJ beat to win the title.
Hennenberel?
Hennenberel,
no.
Yeah. Other than it's like him and Hennenberel are the two guys that were unbelievably talented, looked like a once in a generational talent to suddenly, I don't want to say tomato cans, but pretty close. When he beat Dominic Cruz, and I know it's like that was the all-time peak, and it's hard to judge a guy's entire career by one fight, but when he beat Cody Garbrandt, it was one of the most impressive performances ever by any fighter. And I remember thinking, I was thinking he was the Ilya Topuria. Like, that was the run. When he dropped, think about when he fought TJ Dillashaw the very first time, and he dropped Dillashaw and almost knocked Dillashaw out in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Then everything you go, oh my God, this guy's going to be special. If he can, he just put on a once in a lifetime performance against Dominic Cruz, and he's about to knock out TJ Dillashaw. It's supposed to be like the biggest, challenge. He was what we thought he was going to be what Ilya Topuria is right now.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, this is the most talented.
When he beat Cruz, he was 25 years old, and just he seemed bulletproof.
So as far as his skills right now, one thing, he doesn't move like he used to. He against Hani Barcelos, he hated the pressure from Barcelos, but I mean, we are Hani Barcelos guys, so
yep.
His hand speed is still good, and he's still explosive, and he still sets up his shots with feints. The problem is his output has dropped recently. He can't really pull the trigger. I understand why his output would drop because he can't take the damage anymore. So he's kind of trying to be a little bit smarter and kind of limit the amount of exchanges there are. He will throw some jabs. Still has some tight boxing. He was as he was rising the rank, his best was his pocket boxing. The problem is he doesn't have the durability to eat him anymore. His short right is still his best. He still has power, but not like he used to be. He is open to leg kicks because of his heavy boxing style. He's an okay wrestler, like okay entries, but I think because he took Dominic Cruz down a decade ago, where I think people overrate his wrestling, and then I have to wonder, like, was it he was so good against Dominic Cruz, or also it could be a little bit like he was very good, but Cruz also had like an all-time bad performance. Like it was, like the worst performance of his career. It could have been a little thing of that, like kind of blows it up to be bigger than it was. Maybe it was like best of both worlds going on. If you take him down, he is hard to take down. But if you take him down, he used to be able to get up to his feet fairly quickly, but that was not against the case against David Ferreira. He couldn't get up against all, and he also gassed out against Jaime Gonzalez. Long, he's a good athlete. He's a good boxer. He likes to press forward with a lot of output. He closes the distance, and he likes to battle in the pocket. He throws elbows inside. Against Yeong, he hit him with like 100 elbows in the pocket to end their fight. Problem is, he's kind of slow. Like he's with his hand, his hand speed. If he connects, he does have power. He does sit on his punches. I like that he throws calf kicks in his combinations. He also will go like flying knees. He doesn't have the best defense, though. He gets hit a lot. He will try to sneak in a takedown, but he isn't really good at it. If he gets the fight to the ground, he has good ground pound. He has a submission threat, too. He has 9 subs. If taken down, he is hard to hold down, and he's got pretty good cardio. So I give Garbrandt, like, I don't know. Like, I'm going to take Lee. I'm sorry, not Lee. Who's Long? I'm taking Long by decision, but it's not that I'm high on Long. It's just I'm out on Garbrandt. Like I'm just done now. Again, he's lost to good guys, good names. I mean, like during this run, what's the worst loss? Like Pedro Munoz. I mean, I know he lost bad too. So I want to make that out there. But like he hasn't lost to a bad fighter, but the performances have been really bad.
Mm-hmm.
This is by far the biggest step down in competition of the guys he's lost to. Not, you want to throw Brian Kelleher and Trevin Jones and stuff in there. Like this is equal to that. Is he still that guy that can beat them? I don't know, man. Like I think it's not like I think he's lost a lot. I think he really just has hand speed left. I favor Long everywhere else. I say he pressures Garbrandt. I think he beats him up on the feet. And I say Garbrandt doesn't eat the big shots that well. Does he put him out? I'll say Garbrandt makes it to a decision, but give me Long by decision.
Next up, the 5-fight main card of UFC 326 is bookended by rematches. This is the first of them, a middleweight scrap between Gregory Rodrigues and Bruno Ferreira. Rodrigues, the 34-year-old Brazilian, is 18-6 overall, and he has achieved symmetry. He is 9-3 before joining the UFC and 9-3 since joining the UFC. As a veteran of season 4 of Dana White's Contender Series. He actually lost on the Contender Series, was signed anyway. Again, 9-3 since then, and he's on a 2-fight win streak. He got knocked out about a year ago by Jared Cannonier in the headliner of UFC Fight Night 251. Since then, he has back-to-back wins over Jack Hermanson and Roman Kopylov. He'll look to make it 3 in a row here, reaffirm his position as a solid fringe contender in this division, and in order to do so, he will need to get past Ferreira. Ferreira, also from Brazil, 33 years old, 15-2 overall, 6-2 since joining the UFC out of season 6 of Dana White's Contender Series, and he is on a 3-fight win streak comprising all 3 of his cage appearances of last year. He tapped out Armen Petrosyan in March, tapped out Jackson McVeigh in July, and won a unanimous decision over Marvin Vettori at UFC 323 last December. Probably the best win of his career thus far. He's looking to make it 4 in a row, reaffirm himself as a top 15 talent in the UFC middleweight division. He is not favored to do so. Gregory Rodrigues, minus 190 as your favorite. Bruno Ferreira plus 165 as the underdog. These two fought just a little over 3 years ago. It was Ferreira's UFC debut, and he knocked out Rodrigues late in the first round, just one shot at him. It's interesting. Rodrigues was a big favorite in their first meeting for obvious reasons. Like, he was looking like a killer at that time. He was like a minus 325 favorite. Despite getting knocked out in the first round, and despite Ferreira being on a 3-fight win streak at this point, Rodrigues is almost a 2-1 favorite again. And here's the problem. I mean, there are lots of problems with these guys, but the problem is that Rodrigues is probably better than Ferreira everywhere, like in terms of skill. And even though Ferreira is obviously just a monster hitter of a human being, Rodrigues is bigger, stronger, and probably hits just as hard on a shot-for-shot basis. But Rodrigues has a bad habit of running headlong into his opponent's best strike. At this point, Rodrigues, he's lost 3 times in the UFC and once on the Contender Series. 3 of the losses have been knockouts, and at least 2 of the 3, he either got one-shotted or one punch basically sent things rolling downhill and turned the whole fight on its head. Like, Rodrigues is pretty durable, but he leaves his chin in the danger zone a little too often. Getting blasted by Jared Cannonier after 3 rounds of back and forth action is no shame. Getting blasted by Bruno Ferreira is no shame. Like, the one thing we know the guy knows how to do is hit you just with a monster overhand right. But getting blasted in the first round by Jordan Williams on the Contender Series, when Williams, 1, ended up as a welterweight, and 2, wasn't a very good welterweight either, that's bad. And that wasn't that big a fluke. Rodrigues' opponents tend to hit him cleanly, and the right guy hits him cleanly at the right time, and he goes down. Because I favor Rodrigues pretty strongly in this fight, but there's big upset potential here. Like, this could go just very much like the first one did. Ferreira is a fantastic submission threat, but he doesn't seem to have the wherewithal, the fight IQ to take fights to the ground when it would be to his best advantage. I'm going to go with Rodrigues here. Give me Rodrigues to win by decision. But again, if I were a betting man, I'd say steer well clear of this one. This is just your classic dog or pass fight, because yeah, 2 to 1 odds on Gregory Rodrigues do not sound like a good deal to me. Give me Rodrigues by decision, but yeah, if I bet on this, I'm watching through like slitted fingers.
Yeah, that I agree about like dog or pass. It's a rematch. Rodrigues lost the first fight, and it's not like Ferreira has been terrible since then. He's actually been pretty good, and I know they're both pretty good. I mentioned Font versus Rojas is like the fight that's not a main event that I'm really intrigued with. I'm really intrigued with this one because of the competitiveness of this. I think this line should be a pick 'em. I think they're both dangerous guys. I think they both have holes. So yeah, Rodrigues, he's a really big guy. Fairly well-rounded, just kind of marches down his foe with high output, nice hand speed, accurate. I think when you look at his physique, you think big power, not very technical, and it's like, he's technical. Like, he throws tight shots. Now, don't get me wrong, he can get in the pocket. He can land some big shots, no doubt about it. But when he straightens out his shots, he's better. Now, he'll still love those big hooks, and he'll telegraph and load up a little bit. But he does have, obviously, he has really good power. I mean, he knocked out Jack Hermanson. Pretty scary. But he works the body well. He is willing to eat a shot to land his own, and some of it has to do with what you said, like not moving his head well. He's a good wrestler. He likes like using his size, get to the body lock takedowns. But though he can shoot some takedowns from the outside, though sometimes he'll look for snatch singles, kind of just duck his head and reach out and pull him in. But he can do that because he's so freaking physically strong. If he gets to the fight to ground, he's a very good grappler. Mean ground and pound. He is a submission artist. He's one of these guys. He's a little more like Charles Oliveira, was opportunistic. Like, he'll lose position to get a submission. Gas tank has been a major issue. He did gas out in that Jag Cannonier fight. It was early in like the second round. But to his credit, his last fight against Romakov, his cardio looked much better. Bruno Ferreira, he's a southpaw, though he will switch stances. Not a very technical boxer, but he's super explosive. He does set up his shots well with feints, so I like that. He'll draw a feint, he'll draw an attack and then counter. He hits really hard. His short right hook from the southpaw stance, I think, is his best below. He has 9 TKOs. Now he has, not the very defensive sound guy. He eats a lot of shots. He also keeps his chin high, doesn't check leg kicks. He has a judo black belt, and he has been looking for takedowns a lot. He's been wrestling a lot. I mean, he got takedowns against Phil Hawes, which was pretty impressive. His entries are weird, though. He can get takedowns from distance, but he'll just kind of like explode forward sometimes and just kind of duck his head in this bull rush to try to get the fight to the cage. But he gets the fight done. I mean, he's shown he's a pretty good grappler. I mean, he's got 5 subs on his record. Not the best defensive wrestler, though he did well to get off the bottom against Rodrigues in their first fight. And he's also shown an improved cardio. So, like, I feel like they're very similar fighters in a sense. And that's another reason why I think this fight should be really close. I think it's an intriguing matchup. I'm a fan of both guys. I think they're both pretty good. I flip-flopped on this one. I think both are underrated. I think everyone's going to expect this fight to be like a spectacular finish. And it could, and I hope it is, for one of the other guys. But I also think it's just as good of a chance that this is a back-and-forth contest where we get a little bit of striking, a little bit of grappling. I'm going to agree with you and go with Rodrigues because he's more polished. Which is funny because when you look at it, you don't think technical guy. But I think he's more technical of the two. I think he wins a split decision. I think now it's even. We'll have to do a trilogy fight one day.
Next up on the UFC 326 main card is a lightweight clash between Drew Dober and Michael Johnson. Dober, the 37-year-old Nebraska native, is 28-15 with 1 no contest overall. He is 14-11 with 1 no contest since joining the UFC out of season 18 of The Ultimate Fighter. He is coming in off a win. He knocked out Kyle Prepolek back at UFC Fight Night DeRitter versus Allen last October. That snapped a 3-fight losing streak for him, possibly saving his job and bringing him to this main card where he will take on fellow veteran Johnson. 39-year-old St. Louis native by way of South Florida is 24-19 overall. He is 16-15 since joining the UFC out of season 12 of The Ultimate Fighter, which, oh boy. Now that Court McGee is gone, I believe that's the earliest tough veteran still in the UFC. That is something. And Michael Johnson is on a 3-fight win streak dating back 2 full years. He fought just once last year. It was at UFC 318 last July, where he picked up a unanimous decision over Daniel Zellhuber. He would love to make it 4 in a row, which I believe would tie his best win streak in the UFC. Streak he set 11 years ago. So that'll be a hell of a thing to see. Keith, your favorite in this fight is -125, underdog +105. Who are they?
I'm glad it's a really close betting line. Johnson's a favorite?
You are correct. Michael Johnson is not only on a numbered main card in 2026, but he belongs there, and he is the favorite. Michael Johnson. Some of the things that I'm going to say about Michael Johnson are reminiscent of the things I said about Cody Garbrandt just a few minutes ago. He's clearly aging. He's clearly in the last act of his career. But
black don't crack, man.
I mean, he's 39 years old, and for a guy that has always been a slickster on the feet, I did not think he would. I mean, I figured he would have washed out by now anyway, because when he lost to Diego Ferreira 3 years ago, I was like, he's under 500 in the UFC. He's got nothing left. He got knocked out cold by a guy that's just as old as he is. Johnson is toast. And what do you know? He's won 3 fights in a row since then. And while a couple of them have not been against the best guys, they're the worst guys in maybe the UFC's best division. Like
he lost to Gregory recently, and he's still like that's.
Hey, it was 5 years ago, but yeah, he lost.
Yeah, he lost a split to Jamie Malarkey.
Yep.
Like, who would have thought that the guy who lost a split to Jamie Malarkey in 2022 would be relevant in 2026? It's insane.
It's wild.
I love it though.
Yeah, I love it too. And this is, I mean, this is honestly a pretty good matchup for him. Like, Johnson's problems historically have come with him just having defensive lapses or huge lapses in fight IQ in fights that he was doing well. The classic example of that was when Thiago Moises tapped him out like 20 seconds into the second round after getting basically tooled in the first round. But
Josh Emmett coming back and knocking him out. Yeah,
Josh Emmett like flatlined him. And up until that fight, one thing I would have said about Johnson was he has an incredible chin, incredible durability. That was the first time we just really saw him get flattened and starched. And for what it's worth, I think that's the fight that told him to stop trying to cut to 145. So that's a good thing. But here's the thing, like we know what Dober's going to come out and do. Like this is going to be a striker's delight because Johnson can wrestle, but rarely chooses to, and Dober can't wrestle. Dober is a compact, still athletic, still explosive striker who throws a good variety of strikes. Like, you know, you see his build, and if you're not familiar with him after 26 UFC fights, I don't know what to tell you, but if you were just to look at him in a vacuum, you would, one, assume he's a better wrestler than he is because he's a stocky, cauliflower-eared guy from Nebraska. But two, like you'd expect a wrestle boxer type approach, but he has some incredible kicks. Like he's more than happy to engage people at range. He can land with power at range. But Dober's offense has always been a little more on point than his defense. And I don't know, this is going to be a battle to kind of see who can find the other guy's chin cleanly first, because neither of these guys reacts very well to being hit squarely anymore. And between the two of them, Dober is the harder hitter on a shot for shot basis, but Johnson is a little more defensively sound, except for those few moments of fight where he's not. He throws better in combination. And of the two of them, I do trust his durability in 2026 a little more than Dober's. Because of that, give me Johnson by a second round knockout. And again, my second most likely outcome would be Dober by knockout. But this will be fun for as long as it goes. I'll take Johnson by second round knockout, 4-fight win streak. Like at that point, I just want him to say, Ilia Topuria, you've taken everything I've worked for, and like try to talk his way into a title shot. Michael Johnson, future UFC champ.
Michael Johnson gets a title shot in 2026. I've watched every single UFC fight. I will skip that one. I'm sorry. I'm not believing it that much, man. This fight. So Michael Johnson, longtime Florida native. For the recap, people, I told them someone put in the chat, asked, "Oh, you gotta tell me the Southwest story that last week I gave you an option and you picked the kayaking," which a lot of people enjoyed.
Dude, go to the zoo next time is going to make it into my vocabulary and my lexicon for unrelated things going forward.
Yeah, like people are like, "Oh, you should contact and get your money back." And I'm like, whatever. Did the guy hit me with a good one? So I'm flying to Florida from Providence with my oldest daughter. She's 16, and it's a new Southwest. You don't pick your seats; they assign seats, which is fine. I didn't do the check-in. Like I didn't know you were supposed to. I thought the whole point was they sign your seats, so you don't have to check in. So I guess we had the late check-in, whatever. So we got bad seated. They didn't they didn't put us together. So we're boarding the plane. It's late. It's fairly late at night. Like it's a later flight, and we get in at like midnight in Orlando. So as we're still in Providence, they're boarding the flight, and my daughter's in the middle seat in row 2. I'm in the window seat in row 14. So they keep saying, "Oh, it's a packed flight, full flight." Okay, so I get to my seat and I'm waiting for people to board, and a guy sits on the aisle next to me, and there's still the middle seat open. I'm waiting for the middle seat person, and then it gets to the point where it seems like everybody's on the plane and they stop putting up the overhand bins. So I know my daughter's in a middle seat. So I say to the stewardess, like she's right there, like I go, like, "Miss, is no one sitting in this? Is everyone on board?" And she's like, "Yeah, everybody's on board." And I go, "Can my daughter sit here? She's in the second seat in row 2. Can she just sit here?" And she's like, "Oh, no way. Like that's a different zone or something." I'm like, and I just go, "Okay." Like I was like, "Okay, like that's stupid, but I think my daughter's switching from row 2 to row 14. My 100-pound daughter's not gonna crash the plane if she moves back." But like it's late. She's probably it's late. First shift for her. I'm not gonna like argue with the ladies. I said, "Okay." And then she goes, "Well, why didn't you pick the seats together?" And I go, "I didn't pick these seats. You guys, like Southwest gave them to me." So she gets super angry as fast, and she's like, "Well, you got to talk to the people, down in the airport." She goes, they handle the booking. I handle the in the air and the flight. And I go, "Okay, like, all right." I didn't make a fuss, nothing. She goes, and I'm like, "All right." She's a little cranky. So then she goes, "But you can't sit here anyways," because I was in the emergency row where the door is. And I go, "Why?" She goes, "Well, if we have an emergency, you're going to go help your daughter." I'm like, "Of course I am." Like, of course something happens, I'm going to go help my daughter. That's all I said. They didn't say I wouldn't help anybody else. Didn't say anything. That's all I said. So she gets like, and she does that exactly. She does that. Now, like, you're a stewardess. And then she goes to the front, and I see like her and other stewardess or flight attendants. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be sexist. Talking to each other, and there's like this male flight attendant like comes over and talking with them, and it's like it's going on for like a long time. It's like 10 minutes, and we haven't left. They go over the air. They go, "Sorry for the delay. We're having an issue with the seating. We're gonna have to move a passenger." And I go, "Are they talking about me?" And I'm like, "What is going on?" Then I see them start talking like where my daughter would kind of be, but I can't tell. But I'm like,
yeah,
what the hell is going on? Then the male stewardess comes back and he goes, "Sir, do you want your daughter to sit here?" I go, "Yeah, that's what I asked." Like about the middle seat. I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I asked." That's what I said. Like, not like, "Oh, stupid." I just said, "That's what I asked." He goes, "Well, you can't say the comment you said." And I go, "What comment?" Like it turns into like a Ben Stiller. Did I say bomb on the plane kind of situation? I'm like, what comment? "Oh, you said you wouldn't help anybody in case of an emergency. You sit in an emergency row." I go, "I didn't say that." So, in fairness, there was a guy like sitting in the same row, but he wasn't in my row. He was like the aisle, but like across from me. And he says, "Sir, he didn't say anything like that." So I'm like, "What the hell's going on?" But this is the worst part. So you can hear like people like grumbling, and you understand. My daughter's 16. She's gonna be like super embarrassed. Then all of a sudden they go. I can see them talking about it, and then now everyone's sitting down. They're all strapped up. They're all cranky. It's like a 9. Oh, I didn't tell you the best part. The flight has already been delayed an hour and a half, so it's like 9:40 flight. So everyone's already cranky. So then all of a sudden, my daughter gets up. You see her get up, and she walks back, and they like point her down. So she's like all embarrassed because now the entire plane is waiting. They think the whole plane got delayed because of her. Because all I simply ask is she sit there. Then the freaking cranky ass stewardess comes over to me after she sat down and goes, says something like, "Just remember, I did you a solid." And I like walked off, and I'm like, even the guy said something like, "Dude, I would tell him to hit the brakes or some shit." And I'm like, "What the freak?" All I asked is if she could sit here. You said no, and I was okay with it. Oh my God. I ended up leaving the plane, and the stewardess like freaking mean mugging me like you wouldn't believe. The whole I'm like worried I'm gonna get kicked off the flight. She comes up. I was the nicest guy in the world. She, you want pretzels? Yes, please. Do you want a refill? No, I'm okay. Like everything. Thank you so much. I'm gonna be like, when it's time to like pick up your trash, I'd like found every single piece of trash I could possibly find to throw in the bag. I'm like, I am not gonna get kicked off an airplane. Anyways, that was so don't ever ask if someone can switch seats because yeah, it was I didn't tell you the captain came out at one point. Yeah, like
what
he
the
said
hell?
Something. I don't know if he said like I don't think he had to do it, but he came out. You could see him talking. He went back and down like, what is going? While we're on the ground, I'm like, what is? I was thinking I was getting kicked off the flight. Anyways, I said all that. I'm not gonna break down Michael Johnson just for time. I should have given the listeners like, hey, fast forward 2 minutes so you don't have to hear the story if you don't like story time.
Well, I'm just going to throw in here that what actually happened is when you checked in, like a little flashing alert came up on the screen. It was like, this is the guy that left the bad review for Manatee Adventures. Like, watch out.
No, this is before that, but yes, I was just like, yeah, it was, all right, this lady did not like me. Anyways, I made sure I set an alarm to do my check-in next time to make sure we sat with each other. And I was totally set up like, hey, sex me that. She's got a middle seat with two strangers. Oh, then she comes down. She's all embarrassed. She's like, yeah, they're all saying like, what's the big deal? You sit here. Like they were saying it to her. Like she's like, the guy right next to me was saying this. And she's like, oh, so awkward. Like you have to understand. My daughter's the nice. You met her. She's the nicest girl alive. She's not the
and every 16-year-old girl alive is mortified that her dad is going to do something to embarrass her.
Yes, like, exactly. And then I just asked if she could sit here, and it turns into it and then they go. Imagine this: you're shy 16, you're already going to be shy to move seats, and then they go over the intercom. Sorry for the delay. We're having
like something out of a movie.
Like what the frick? Anyways, just to save time, I flip-flopped on this one. I like both guys. This is a really fun. I mean, I'm not going to break down the skills. We both know what these guys are at this point in their careers. I think they're both going to have their moments. I think we're going to have a really fun striking battle. I doubt either guy goes for takedown. If anybody does go for a takedown, it'd probably be Johnson. I know for a fact Dober is not going for a takedown. I am worried about both their durabilities at that point. I do, based on what we just saw from Daniel Zellhuber, Johnson's wins recently doesn't look as good as they did when he beat Zellhuber at the time. Dober, on the other hand, hasn't really had any wins. Not to mention, like he was losing to Kaya Prepolak and had to come back, and win that fight. It was a really fun fight, fairness, but on the other sense, when you look at his losses, Moicano, Gene Silva, Manuel Torres, those three in a row, don't look as bad. I flip-flopped on this one. I think both are going to have their moments. I see some big shots landing both ways. I still trust Dober's power more. I'm going to say Dober connects on Johnson, and he puts him out. Give me Dober by second round TKO.
Third from the top at UFC 326 is a men's bantamweight matchup between Rob Font and Raul Rosas Jr. Font, the 38-year-old Boston native, is 22-9 overall. He is 13-8 since joining the UFC as the former CES featherweight champ. He is coming in off a loss. He fought at Noche UFC last September, dropping a unanimous decision to David Martinez. He'll look to get back in the win column against the man he was originally supposed to face at Noche UFC, Rosas Jr. 21-year-old fighting out of California is 11-1 overall. He is 5-1 since joining the UFC out of season 6 of Dana White's Contender Series, and he is on a 4-fight win streak. He fought just once last year. It was last March at UFC on ESPN Moreno versus Urseg, where he won a unanimous decision over Vince Morales. As I said, he was supposed to fight Font last September at Noche UFC. It was Rosas Jr. who withdrew from the card, allowing David Martinez to step up. Martinez stole a little of the shine that was supposed to go to Rosas Jr. He's done well ever since. Rosas Jr. now wants to come back and claim what was supposed to be his. He is comfortably favored to do so. Raul Rosas Jr. minus 220, Rob Font plus 180. I understand exactly why they made this matchup for Noche UFC. If you're trying to put Raul Rosas Jr. over, Rob Font is probably the most accomplished fighter and biggest name in the division that is this favorable a style matchup for him. I mean, ultimately, Rob Font was, and even at age 38 still is, one of the best boxers in the UFC, but he does not like being put on his back foot. And almost every striker's offense changes for the worse when they're put on their back foot. Like, that's just, one of the weird things that made Chuck Liddell so great for as long as he was that he was one of the few guys that could hit accurately and with huge power while walking backward as fast as he possibly could. Like, that's the superhuman thing he did. So it's a continuum. Most strikers strike worse off their back foot, but Font is one of the worst ones. And he's definitely one of the worst ones of fighters who are not heavily dependent on their kicking game. Like, he's a boxer with a great jab who just hates being on the back foot. And part of the reason he probably reacts poorly to getting backed up is that he has terrible takedown defense. His grappling defense isn't that bad. You look at him, he's only got one submission loss in his career, but if the other fighter can take Rob Font down once, he can keep taking him down. Font, even in wins, like he beat Jean Matsumoto last February, he got taken down like 1,100 times by Matsumoto. Yeah. Davis and Figueiredo made a takedown dummy out of him. Yeah. Cody Garbrandt, he made Cody Garbrandt's wrestling like still look pretty sharp not that many years ago. And that's the problem. Like, I see routes to victory for Font. Like, again, he has one of the better jabs in the UFC, even still now. If anything, as he pushes towards 40, his power is getting better. He was always a high volume, low power guy, and all of a sudden he's stinging people when he sits down in his punches. So there are routes to victory. Chris Gutierrez basically nullified Rosas with nothing much but like kicking his legs and sticking a jab in his face and not getting taken down. Like, Font could thread that needle, but like I say, this is a favorable matchup for Raul Rosas Jr. He's a better wrestler than he gets credit for. Like, obviously he's a jiu-jitsu wizard, he's a submission threat, but he's not the kind of guy that needs to do weird Imanari rolls and sacrifice throws and pull guard to get people down. Like, his entries are kind of slow, but he's learning to change his techniques better, and he's just a big, physically strong bantamweight that has finished some takedowns just on brute force. That's what makes it really hard to envision the plausible upset, because Font is, weirdly enough, fighting as well as he ever has, and because he's not a dummy on the ground, he just has terrible takedown defense. I'm going to say this goes to a decision, but there's just no question. Raul Rosas Jr. wins all 3 rounds and probably gets like 8 takedowns.
Yeah, this fight is this is a really fun fight. Rob Font, I mean, we kind of know what we have in this guy at this point. I mean, he's a striker that, he fights out of both stances, marches forward. He likes to be the guy taking the ground, fighting with pressure. His output was good against Gene Matsumoto, but sometimes he can be a little gun shy. But he has a very classic boxing style, high guard defense. I do think as his career has gone along, his boxing has become a little overrated. His hand speed is clearly declining. Now, his jab is still really good. I mean, it's the cornerstone of his game. He sets up his right hand, which is pretty accurate, using the feints and just pouring out that jab. He still throws combinations. One of his good strengths is when a guy go like pillars, he's good at wrapping his hands around their defense. He's always really lacked power. I mean, he knocked out Adrian Yanez, but generally speaking, like, Rob Font isn't really known for knocking guys out. He has added elbows inside, which I like, and he will go to the body. One issue is he has completely abandoned his kicks as he's aged. He lacks head movements. I also don't trust his chin. Like, he hasn't really been cracked too much and hurt too much, but still at his age and the amount of fights he's been in, it's definitely something, concerning. He wrestles a lot more than you think. Like, everyone thinks of Rob Font as a striker, but I mean, he's gotten takedowns on a lot of people. He usually likes to come in, get the body lock, do it that way. The problem is I don't know how much time he's worked on his defensive wrestling, because his defensive wrestling is bad. You mentioned it. You mentioned all the guys taken down. I like Corey Sandhagen was taken down at will. Davison Figueiredo was taken on at will. And he makes matters worse because he'll try to jump guillotine. He struggles to get off his back. Davison Figueiredo kept on his back, majority of their fight. And a lot of it, he shows no urgency. He'll throw like submissions off his back. Now, he does have 4 submissions on his record, but still, like, he really isn't a threat in that, that category. Rojas, this dude's only 21 years old, which is insane, because we talked about Tobias being 22 and how young he is to make it to the UFC. Rojas turns 22 in October. You assume, if everything goes well in this fight, either win or loss, but, doesn't sustain, anything significant in injury, he's going to fight at least one more time before October. If that's the case, he'll have 8 fights in the UFC by the age of 22. Like, that's insane. As far as his growth, he continues to get better each fight, and that's one thing that you asked out of a young fighter. His striking is way better now than when he first came in the UFC. He fights out of both stances. His biggest improvement in his striking probably is his southpaw stance. He's pretty good there. He's got nice volume on the feet. He likes to fight with a lot of pressure. He's looked like he's getting faster. He throws a lot of combinations. He will throw a lot of looping punches, but sometimes, like, sometimes I say looping punches, I don't mean it negatively. Sometimes I mean fatal. I faded him through a straight punch in his life. So he has been adding power. Oh, actually, no, that's not true. Faded through one straight punch in his life. Andre Arlovsky can contest to that. Sorry, that's a pretty significant one. But he's been adding power. And what I love about Rojas Jr. is that he's likely like 10 years away from his power years. He has now been adding a big kicking game, which is nice. He likes flying knees. He likes Superman punches, stuff like that, like aerial attacks. I still think his wrestling's overrated, but it has been improving. But his ground game isn't. His ground game is good. If he gets to fight to the ground, I mean, he's got a good top game. He moves to a better position on the ground. Sometimes he'll just stall on top, which is not a bad strategy to win fights. He's a very good BJJ practitioner. He's got good back takes. He's got good ground and pound. He has a big submission threat. I think he's got like 6 subs already in his career. I know he's got a couple in the UFC. He almost got a Sula stretch in his fight. He does chase a submission, and sometimes he'll lose position doing that. But overall, I really grade his top game very highly. He is hard to take down. He showed great composure against Vince Morales when he was put in a deep Peruvian necktie and found a way to get out of that. He has gassed in the past, but I don't think that's a problem anymore. His cardio was really good against Vince Morales. So I'm really intrigued by this fight. I think this will really show where both fighters are at this age. If Rojas wins, it'll show that he's the real deal, even at only 21 years old. To say what you want about Font, like, Font doesn't lose to lower level guys. If Font loses, it will show basically he isn't really a threat anymore. I think this fight will be competitive on the feet. Rojas will need it to be more of a brawling fight instead of a clean boxing match that Font wants. He definitely doesn't want to be backed up by Font. On the ground, I favor Rojas big. I mean, I think he gets at least 2 takedowns, and that's going to be enough in this fight. If he gets 2 takedowns, I think he wins those rounds. I can see him hurting Font with really hard ground and pound. I can see him getting a submission. Like you said, Font is a better grappler than people think. I expect Font to be on his back, eating punches and elbows, but he's tough. He makes the decision, but I feel Rojas gets the best one of his career. Rojas by decision.
That brings us to the co-main event of UFC 326, a middleweight matchup between Caio Borralho and Reinier de Ridder. Borralho, the 33-year-old Brazilian, is 17-2 with one no contest overall. He is 7-1 since joining the UFC out of season 5 of Dana White's Contender Series. They made him fight twice on the Contender Series a couple weeks apart, eventually impressed him enough that he was signed to the UFC, and then he went on to win his first 7 fights in the promotion, leading into his headliner against Nasruddin Imavov last September at UFC Fight Night 258. He came out on the wrong end of a unanimous decision there, so he's looking to regain his momentum, reaffirm himself as a factor in the title picture going forward, and he needs to get past de Ridder in order to do so. De Ridder, under some of the kind of same motivations, same situation. 35-year-old Dutchman is 21-3 overall. He is 4-1 since joining the UFC as a former 2-division champ in one championship. He held both their 205 and 225 pound belts. He joined the UFC a year and a half ago, won his first 4 fights in pretty impressive fashion, including a win over Robert Whittaker before running into Brendan Allen last October in the headliner of UFC Fight Night 262, where Allen really just put a kind of demoralizing whooping on de Ridder on the way to a corner stoppage before the 5th round. 2 gentlemen looking for some redemption here. 2 gentlemen looking for prime territory, at least in kind of the lower ranges of the middleweight top 10. I expected the line to be closer than this one, Keith. Borralho is minus 275, de Ridder plus 225. I feel as though I have a pretty good handle on Reinier de Ridder's game for the most part. Like, he spent most of his career in one championship. I watched every single one of his fights there. And then obviously his 5 in the UFC. Like, I'm sure I've seen 15 or 20 Reinier de Ridder fights. I know I can give you the bullet points of his skills. What I cannot figure out is whether he has great cardio or terrible cardio. Because any fight of his that goes past about the middle of the 2nd round, he either completely falls apart or he steps on the gas and just leaves his opponents in the dust. And I can't predict it from one fight to the next. Like, he had rough sledding against Brendan Allen for most of their fight, but what really happened was Allen turned up the jets and de Ridder just looked completely thrashed. I feel as though that fight could have been stopped basically after any round after the 2nd. Then you look at his fight with Robert Whittaker, which was also a 5-round fight. That was a close fight, but de Ridder won that fight by sweeping the last 2 rounds. Like, if you could tell me in advance which of those versions of de Ridder was going to show up, even with all of his other skills and physical attributes being the same, I feel as though I could make this fight my lock of the night one way or the other. Because Caio Borralho definitely slows down kind of after round 2, but he does it in a very kind of consistent fashion where he stays dangerous, capable of throwing good offense. Like, the wheels don't completely fall off the wagon. I mean, I favor Borralho here. I think he can keep things standing if he wants. I think while de Ridder's an underrated striker, Borralho hits with much better power. I'm going to take Borralho by decision, but if we get good de Ridder, I think he's going to make this one really interesting late.
I'm really shocked by the betting lines. I thought this was like a pick'em.
Yep.
This is a really fun fight. Should it be co-main event of a numbered UFC? No, I think this usually would be 4th from the top or something like that. Yeah. Maybe opening fight. But overall, I think this is a really intriguing fight. De Ridder, I mean, he's an insanely big middleweight. I mean, he might be the biggest middleweight on the roster. I mean, he made both.
It's not often that Borralho is the visibly smaller guy at 185.
That's true. I've met Borralho before. He is a massive dude. He looks like a heavyweight. But Durden made Bo Nickel, who's not a small guy himself, look very small. He isn't a great athlete. He's I would view him, as an overachiever based on his athletic skills. The one thing Durden does is he puts himself in position to win, and those are my favorite types of fighters. And he usually has a good game plan. He isn't a very good striker, but his threat of the ground gives him opportunity to land shot. Now his hands are slow. He throws a very simple 1-2 combination. He lacks power despite being so big. He has a big kicking game. He likes teep kicks. He does really good to close the distance and battle in the clinch. He's a better wrestler than I give him credit for. But he just finds ways to get the fight to the ground, if that makes sense. He'll get some judo trips, but he isn't definitely your traditional wrestler. He is relentless to get to the fight on the ground. I mean, his best performance in wrestling was he got Kevin Holland really taken down really well. Obviously, his wrestling showed up against Bo Nickel. He's a really good grappler. I mean, we saw it against Brendan Allen early in that fight. Great top control. He stays glued to his opponent. He controls really well, doing very little stuff, grabbing the post, hooking ankles. He's got some super slick back takes. He is constantly looking for a sub. He's got 14 submission wins. If taken down, though, he struggles to get off his back. He's not that, Charles Oliver off his back. He's more of a Jacare style, like on top. And then he showed a horrendous gas take against Brian Allen. Now, Bahayo, he's like you said, he's also big for the weight class. He's also a long and lanky guy. The opposite. He is a good athlete. He's a southpaw that he marches down his opponents. He can be very patient until there's an opening, and when there's an opening, that's when he, unloads the big shots. We saw that against Abus Magomedov. He's a counter striker. He likes to slip and rip. Pretty accurate. His left hand is his best punch. Nice, 1-2 combination. He has big power. He's got a good kicking game. He likes flying knees too. Doesn't have the best defense though. He keeps his chin high. He will look for takedowns, but similar to Durden, he's probably more of a BJJ grappler than a wrestler. But if he gets to fight the ground, good top control, inches, just makes little small inches until to advance on the ground. Good back takes. If he gets the hooks in, I've said this before, but he's almost impossible to get out because he has those long legs. I mean, Durden you put in the same category. He doesn't really rush submissions. I think the one time he did was against Mahmoud Muradov, but that was a long time ago. He has good ground and pound. He is a submission artist. He is a weak defensive wrestler. Generally speaking, I don't think it's terrible, but generally speaking. And his cardio has been inconsistent. I think I'm probably a little higher in his cardio than you. Or I think he finds ways to conserve it better. Like his output might not be the same, but he doesn't completely hit the wall like we saw Durden do against Allen. I think it's a really hard fight to pick. I'm glad that you didn't seem super confident. I mean, I know you said you made a bold statement on what would make you confident, but you don't know if that's going to show up. So that's
right.
I mean, both guys are recent title challenges. When we were talking about who should get a title shot, these guys' names are both getting brought up. Now, fast forward a couple months later, and now both these guys have their backs against the wall. I favor Bahayo on the feet, though I think Durden is better in the striking than he gets credit for. If it hits the ground, they're both really good on the ground. I'm actually going to lean Durden there because the reason why I would favor Durden, one, I think he'd be the one to initiate it, to take it down. So he's the one who will most likely be on top. I do expect Durden to get a takedown or two. I think Bahayo will be competitive enough on the ground that when the time, they get exchanged on the feet, he lands good shots on the feet. He lands some hard shots. I wish this fight was 5 rounds just because I'd be intrigued to see who has the cardio advantage. I know that sounds kind of comical, but and also seeing who's made changes. I mean, Bahayo, I mean, he went deep in the fight against Imabal, so I would favor him there. But I'm going to go Bahayo. I just think he's more of a well-rounded fighter. But again, I am not. What would you say this was 2-1 favorite.
More than that. It was minus 275. Yeah, minus
Almost,
275, almost a 3-1 favorite.
That's nuts. That is absolutely. I would have favored Chimaev 3-1 over Dorita. I think they're overreacting to Dorita hitting the wall against Brendan Allen. I almost want to take Dorita just because of the disrespect, but I will go with Rafael. I'll take him by decision.
With that, we come to the main event of UFC 326, a matchup at 155 pounds for the UFC's BMF belt between Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira. Holloway, the 34-year-old Hawaiian, is 27-8 overall. He is 23-8 in the UFC. He is 2-1 at lightweight. He has bounced back and forth a little bit over the years, but 2-1 at lightweight, including a win in his most recent outing. That was last July at UFC 318, where he defended the BMF belt by winning his trilogy fight against Dustin Poirier. He's back here looking to be the first man ever to defend the BMF belt twice against a familiar face in Oliveira. 36-year-old Brazilian is 36-11 with one no contest overall. He is 24-11 with one no contest in the UFC. He is 18-7 with one no contest above featherweight. He killed himself to make featherweight for a lot of his early run. Since moving up to lightweight, 18-7 with one no contest. He is the former UFC lightweight champ, but it's been a while since he lost that belt. That was a little over 3 years ago at UFC 280, and since then he has alternated losses and wins, beating Beneil Dariush, losing to Arman Sarukian, beating Michael Chandler, losing to Ilia Topuria, and in his most recent outing, in the headliner of UFC Fight Night 261 last October, he tapped out Mateusz Gamrot in the second round. So the Bronx looking to break that pattern of alternating losses and wins. In order to do so, he's going to have to overcome some pretty long odds. Max Holloway is minus 225 in this fight, Keith. Charles Oliveira plus 185. Obviously, these two did already fight once, and while it was early in both of their careers, they were established enough that it was a fight night headliner. They fought back in 2015. Holloway won in the first round as Oliveira tapped out from a seated position at the base of the cage, citing some injury that remains mysterious 11 years later. But yeah, Oliveira lost by first round TKO. They've had very divergent paths since then. Oliveira getting some redemption, winning the UFC lightweight title and becoming one of the most badass dudes in the history of the UFC. Holloway remaining one of the baddest dudes in the history of the UFC as he moved on to become one of the greatest featherweights of all time. Keith, I'm going to flip this one to you first. Who gets it done? What does this fight look like? Will it leave us wanting a trilogy bout?
I mean, I want Charles Oliveira to win now just so we can get it because I do expect it to be exciting. It's funny. I was scrolling through their fighter page there and on the Fight Finder, and I want to go back to a date. And this was not part of my notes, just when I was looking at it. The date's December 2nd, 2017. The card is UFC 218. The card, so Charles Oliveira and Max Holloway both fight in that card. And they do not fight each other. That fight has already happened about 4 or 5 fights earlier for both guys. But Charles Oliveira fights on a prelim fight. Now, this is 1, 2, 3.
No, it was the top prelim.
He fought 5 fights. This is 5 fights after he got that weird neck thing that happened against Max Holloway. Of those 5 fights, he went 2-3, beat Miles Jury and Will Brooks, which were both good wins at the time, but losing to Anthony Pettis by guillotine choke, Ricardo Ramos by guillotine choke, and eventually that night he lost to Paul Felder by ground and pound.
Yep.
Max Holloway, on the other hand, on the same card, he fights Jose Aldo, defends his title against Jose Aldo, his second to title defense, beats an all-time legend, wins by knockout. My point is they both were on the same card at one point, who would have sat there after seeing Paul Felder beat Charles Oliveira's ass, seeing Charles Oliveira lose multiple fights in that little bit of window, to say that both of these guys at this point would be in the same position? Nobody.
I would have laid down good money that Charles Oliveira would be out of the UFC by now.
Yeah, me too. It wasn't out of the realm of possibility when he lost to Paul Felder that he'd be out of the UFC a year later. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Not, almost going on almost 10 years, almost a decade later, he's still in the UFC and headlining UFCs. And then he's fighting for a title that is given to somebody because of how tough and badass they are. Has nothing to do with their record, has nothing to do with...
Dude, let me throw this out there.
Yeah.
Like, if you had gotten in a time machine, visited me in December 2nd, 2017, and explained what the BMF belt was going to be, I would have said, it is much more likely that Charles Oliveira will win a regular belt in the UFC than he will ever be fighting for any kind of BMF belt.
Like this. Yeah, he like Charles Oliveira in that category. It's funny. If you said to me then, well, these two guys are fighting, Paul Felder and Charles Oliveira, and one of these guys would be in a BMF situation and the other one would be a commentator, I would say, oh, yeah, so Paul Felder like somehow can still fight this style all these years later. A decade later, somehow he can still fight at this pace, which is insane. Yeah. And Charles Oliveira is doing like a Portuguese broadcast for the UFC. Like, that's kind of cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I have such respect for these two guys. And I love that Charles Oliveira has turned around the narrative. And Max Holloway, by the way, like when I think of, like I was thinking about Max Holloway today, when I think of guys that I want to be the face of MMA, like what LeBron is for basketball or something like that. The guy I want to remember when it was a big deal who represented our sport when during the I don't want to say the dark ages, but like the legalization era, like when they were trying to.
When they're bringing Rich Franklin around. Hey, this guy's a math teacher. He's a nice guy. He speaks
exactly.
well.
Yeah, that's exactly the guy I was thinking of. Yeah, Rich. They wanted Rich Franklin. They wanted Randy Couture, the all-American wrestler. That's what they wanted. They really didn't want Chuck Liddell with the mohawk and everything. If they were in that situation today, wouldn't Max Holloway be our representative? There's still like he's in his 30s, but he still has this baby face, and he says everything right and does everything right. But besides being this ultimate talent, he's that like he has that psychopath in him that he can hide it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I mean that as a compliment. Max Holloway is okay. Take this for what I'm saying, and this is just I'm freeballing off the my head right now. Max Holloway is like our Ted Bundy, where he has this like baby face, unassuming, kind of charming personality, but he'll straight murder your ass.
Dude. Okay.
I'm not trying to make.
Obvious.
Ted Bundy was in the 70s, so give me some grace. I'm not going to be insensitive to anybody, so I apologize if for some reason somebody's.
And see, Keith wouldn't have even like made that comparison if Max Holloway were not the least likely fighter in history to like actually have that kind of dark secret.
It's probably not the best comparison. But my point is like like when people did Ted Bundy, mine is like serial killer kick, but I've been watching serial killer documentary. The point is when he got arrested, he was shocking to everybody. He was like, "No, not that guy. That's not what a serial killer looks like. He's so handsome. He's so charming." But then you see Max Holloway and how he acts in the Hawaiian, and then all of a sudden you get that line where he's moving up in weight, and I was like, "Oh my God, you're giving up so much." He's like, when he was fighting Justin Gaethje, he's like, when they fought the Coliseum, they didn't carry around a scale. Like that's Max Holloway. Like what a bad. I love Max Holloway. Skill wise, he's a long and lanky guy. Incredible output. I think I kind of made up the saying builder. And when I think of that, I hopefully it becomes a thing. I know it's a thing on our show. Hopefully it should become big more shows. Holloway is the first guy I think of. Mm-hmm. And there's other guys, but he's that guy. He marches down his flow and he's just slowly trying to take take the ground. I've said it before. He's like a general in the 1700s. But when I think about best boxers, I don't want to call him the best boxer in UFC history, but he's on the Mount Rushmore for sure.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's got one of those corner spots. He's not getting that like spot where the face is like halfway hidden. He's getting the corner spots. You know, his clip. I was thinking when I think of Max Holloway, I think of one moment. Yeah, the Gaethje one at the end probably it takes it now, but for the longest time, it was Calvin Kattar, him saying, "I'm the best boxer in the UFC," looking away and dodging punches. Like that clip should be taken, saved, and played in Smithsonian's. Like,
Yep.
you know, he flows between stances so well. He's got a great jab. Then he gets in the pocket and he does damage with his hand speed and his accuracy. He's really accurate, especially if he picks up his opponent's rhythm. When Holloway finds his range, and it seems like it happens in so many fights, it's like he finds that matrix moment. You know, I said it in the last fight. He's like a Mozart playing a piano, or Michelangelo painting a picture. Or just he's a master at fighting. When he starts open up his combinations, dude, you know he's in that twilight zone. Like he's in his groove. He's in that. You know, I saw Barry Bonds say when he was like got so hot, like a baseball looked like a beach ball to him. That's Max Holloway when he gets in his zone and fighting. A lot of variety, constantly adding new attacks to his game. I love when he lands a combo and then instantly changes stance and attacks from the other side, so the opponent really can't even settle on what's happening. His back punch from either stance is a thing of beauty. He doesn't get enough credit for his body work. The Arnold Allen fight is a perfect example of him just battering a guy's body. He just touches and then explodes when there's an opening. The only knock on his boxing is he isn't really known for his power, and I've had that in my notes for a while. But I would say that Justin Gaethje and the Korean Zombie might have disagreed with me on that. He threw a lot of kicks against Arnold Allen, which is good to see. Against Justin Gaethje, he credits the spinning wheel kick against Gaethje at the end of the first as being the biggest reason why he won that fight. He has a legendary chin. He's only been dropped twice in his career. One to Gaethje and the other one to Topuria. Topuria being the only one to ever finish him or knock him out. Another weakness of his striking is that he's open to leg kicks. Volkanovski was able to beat him up with that. He'll never look for takedowns, but his takedown defense is really good. He defends well. One thing he does, he uses his long frame. He looks for neck attacks. You go for his legs, he's snatching your neck. Now, I don't think that's the best strategy against Charles Oliveira. Now, I did mention guys like Ricardo almost guillotine choking him, but that was a different human back then. Great cardio, obviously. He's going to go hard all 25 minutes. He has so much heart. He battles through beatings. I think about Poirier. I think of Volkanovski, where he just getting beat up, just kept coming. And then I think the biggest compliment is just he has absolute balls of steel. But he challenged Justin Gaethje in the last 10 seconds to throw down in a fight that he's clearly winning. It's the most ballsy thing ever. And, he respects Charles Oliveira. If we're in the fifth round, he's going to give Charles Oliveira the same opportunity. Oliveira is still a good athlete at this age. I know I've been talking a while. I love this guy so much. He has so much experience. He's a big lightweight, long and lanky. He's an absolute action fighter. Great volume, accurate, got a nice jab. He throws good, tight, hard hooks. His left hook is legendary. He also uses it to kind of check. He has a check hook to kind of keep his opponents in his range, and he generates good power from there. He has very deceiving power. He never really loads up. He just kind of tags clean, and he gets guys hurt because he keeps everything tight. He also has deceiving power because you look at his frame. He doesn't look like a guy that has even though he's a big lightweight. I've met him many times.
Yeah.
He's a guy that the TV doesn't do justice how big he is.
Absolutely. Completely agree.
He has great stepping knees. It's tremendous. I love it. He's got a big kicking game, a lot of teep kicks. He's not as technical defensively as Holloway. Defense is plan B for him. do it as a Muay Thai style. He's a very stationary target, stand right in front of you. He's been hurt many times in the past. I am worried about all the wars he's been in, like even the wins he's had. I'm thinking about like Michael Chandler, Justin Gaethje, guys that he's beaten, but he still got hurt. Obviously, Ilya Topuria knocked him out bad. But in fairness, he has a great recovery game, and it's so funny because the narrative was this front runner, weak minded guy, and it's actually not. It's the complete opposite. He's the guy that recovers and finds ways to win even when he is hurt. Do those long legs, he is open to calf kicks. He likes to close the distance and battle in the clinch. He's a very good wrestler, like so underrated in that category. He uses the long arms to get the body lock takedowns. Good at like getting their weight going one way and then turning like as a opponent, like he'll get the body lock, say like he's trying to dip the guy to the left. As they push back to kind of not go to the ground, that's when he switches directions and hit the other way. It's a thing of beauty. He also does some throws in there. Now he's a bad defensive wrestler, but there ain't many people that's willing to try to take him down. I mean, that's playing with fire. If he's on top, great ground and pound. He's also the greatest submission artist, submission threat, I should say, in the UFC history. He can catch a submission in a literal second, and just he's an opportunistic. Like Damian Maia is the one who takes you down, grinds you, works to a position. That's not Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira is the guy who catches you. He locks up with submission, it's over. Nobody can sub quicker than him. He gets sweeps off his back, and he can go hard all 25 minutes, and he's so mentally strong. He gets battered, and he still finds a way to win. So I've been talking a really long time. This is such a great fight. Everyone loves both these guys. If I'm Oliveira, I'm not giving people the fight they want. I'm trying to get the fight to the ground. But against Max Holloway, that seems almost like an impossible feat. On the feet, Oliveira doesn't get enough credit, especially with his kicks. I think I'd be throwing teep kicks nonstop against Holloway if I was, had to strike with Holloway. I think Holloway, though, will find his range. I think he pieces up Oliveira. I expect both guys to have moments. I especially expect Holloway to point on the ground and give Oliveira his last 10 seconds. I think Oliveira is going to sit there and swing it out with him. Ultimately, I think this fight will look a lot like the Gaethje fight, minus probably the walk-off KO. I say Holloway outstrikes Oliveira maybe 4-1, maybe 5-0. Give me Holloway by decision. This is my no-brainer fight of the night. But also, I haven't said it yet. I'm putting Holloway as my lock of the night.
I love the pick there. I love the lengthy breakdown. I mean, honestly, if you're watching our show right now and you didn't want a 20-minute breakdown of these two guys, you got the wrong show. Like this is why we blow through. This is why we blow through like some of the 100%. Like I'm not going to go back through all of my notes on these guys. What I'll say is these guys are each examples of something that is rare in MMA and is cool to see happen and just makes you get behind him even more. Max Holloway is an example of an elite fighter that's been elite for 15 years and has never left the same camp. Like, I'm not going to put you on the spot to pick it right now, Keith, but just if you're watching this right now, tell me, who is the second best Hawaiian fighter who trains in Hawaii?
Right now, all the time.
Right now. Who's this? They are all in Las Vegas, except for Max fucking Holloway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't the guy, the PFL, I can't think of his name right now, the PFL guy, he had a run in the PFL.
Ray Cooper the third?
Yeah, Ray Cooper. He was in Hawaii, though, right?
Yeah, he stayed in Hawaii.
I know he's not really relevant anymore, but him.
So the second best Hawaiian fighter that still trains in Hawaii is a guy that was really good in PFL 5 years ago.
Yeah. Like there might be somebody else I'm not thinking of. There's probably somebody. But
I mean, that's just
the point taken.
Yeah, I love to see that because as good as it is for the sport in some ways, when just everyone converges on a couple camps in Las Vegas and a couple camps in South Florida and a couple camps in Greater LA, like when you get your really unique fighters, it's usually ones who train at a camp where not many other people train. Like it was so awesome that like Demetrius Johnson and Bibiano Fernandez were like the only guys at their camp, and they were two of the best pound for pound fighters in the world.
Is Yancy Medeiros the right answer? And he hasn't been relevant in like 5 years himself.
And might not even still be in the UFC. Like, we're talking about people that might literally be retired without us knowing about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, Oliveira's a little bit of that too. I mean, part of the reason he had such a long and painful learning curve is that he was in the UFC for a couple of years, still training in his garage with a couple schlubs and like Macaco Patino coming around every once in a while for like jiu-jitsu lessons. Like, but Oliveira is an example of a fighter who reinvented himself and specifically changed the narrative about the intangibles. Nobody does that. Like, wrestlers can become really great strikers. Strikers can become great wrestlers. People can change their skill set. People can go from having bad cardio to having good cardio. But when you get a reputation for being a quitter, like, it's impossible to name many people that have changed that narrative.
Only two guys I can think of: Charles Oliveira and Robbie Lawler. And Robbie Lawler was a very short time when he was called. That was when he lost to Pete Spratt wicked early in his career. A little bit when he was like in between the other organizations, just Strike Forces and those. But that's it. And both are legendary.
Yeah, and both are legendary. And Oliveira, if you had that opinion about him 10 years ago, it was a well-informed opinion. It was an opinion based on like 15 fights in the UFC where you'd seen him lose badly to much less skilled fighters over and over again because he either gave up or made a terrible mistake. Like,
I swear, like, Paul Felder, I know I keep interrupting you after I just talked for like a freaking half hour about these guys. Like, Paul Felder was punching him and like changed his brain with a punch. I don't know what happened.
And I love that you bring that one up because the Paul Felder fight, which was the last example we really have of Oliveira losing a fight just because he got overwhelmed. He couldn't, like, he got beat. That led me to pick Oliveira fights wrong for like the next 3 years. Like, as recently as when he had won 7 fights in a row when he was fighting Tony Ferguson in like 2020, I was still like, well, Tony Ferguson breaks people and I think Charles Oliveira will still break at some point. That's how long it took me to kind of get my head around it. But you've already broken down the skills that, that these guys bring to the cage. The thing I'll add briefly is that we've now seen what it takes to beat Charles Oliveira, because I honestly think he's as good as he was 3 years ago when he lost to Makhachev. Like, he's not fallen off. He's still the same guy. We've just seen what it really takes to beat him. And for the most part, you either need to just be like Makhachev and maybe be a match for him everywhere, or you need to be someone like Sarukian or Topuria that can hurt him on the feet and is not afraid to follow him to the ground. That's pretty, because what Charles Oliveira has figured out kind of since the Felder fight is, okay, yeah, I get punched in the face, it hurts, I fall down, but I don't have to just shell up. Like, he's become a guy who is good at recovering on the ground after getting hurt. You think about his incredible run to the title and his title run. Michael Chandler hurt him early. Dustin Poirier hurt him early. Justin Gaethje hurt him early. In every case, like, he recovered on the ground where they were either just didn't want to go down there at all with him or were clearly tentative enough that he kind of, like, unless you're someone like Sarukian or Topuria that can hurt him badly enough on the feet that he's really compromised on the ground, or you can handle him in the striking and you're a good enough grappler that you don't have to be mortally afraid. Charles Oliveira is a huge problem to deal with even now still. Like, if he'd slipped, Mateus Gamrot would have made that more of a fight. Holloway is going to have to follow a different path than that to beat Oliveira. He's like, I find it hard to imagine that he's going to be sitting down Oliveira with like a single hard punch. He's basically just going to, like, he's going to march forward on Oliveira. And we've seen the Holloway thing. My go-to line about him has always been that once he really gets flowing on the feet, stance becomes almost irrelevant because he'll just throw 7 or 8 strike combos where he's using a front kick up the middle as a stance change that keeps his opponent moving back as well. it is a thing of beauty, and Keith described it better than I could. There are routes to victory for Oliveira here. Like, he certainly could hurt Holloway badly on the feet. Another thing about Oliveira is he's pointy. He's sort of like, maybe he like took that from Tony Ferguson when he beat him, but Oliveira cuts a lot of people. Like, if Max cuts easy, like if he cuts Holloway with like an elbow or something in the first round, that maybe changes the perspective of the fight a little bit. But the best routes to victory for Oliveira pretty much would involve Holloway making a mistake, and he doesn't make very many mistakes, or getting tired in a way that we've never seen him do. So I'm leaning Holloway by decision as well. A late stoppage wouldn't shock me if he just really piles up the damage on Oliveira and pulls away late. But I'm with Keith here. I'm going to go with Holloway by decision. And that is the Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC 326, Holloway versus Oliveira 2. But I've been Ben. What you got?
I gotta ask you a question real quick about the main event.
All right.
I think we both agree that Arman Tsarukyan probably should be next for a title shot. And that this is probably more of a recap. But do one of these guys with an incredible performance skip the line? Even though the current champion of the sport has knocked both these guys out?
It is possible, just because Tsarukyan seems to be shooting himself in the foot so badly. Like, the only thing anyone brings up to justify pushing him to the back of the line is the fact that he like headbutted Dan Hooker at the weigh-ins, and you're like, do you really want to put a guy in a main event that's that unhinged? Yeah. And then he goes to the what do you call it? The pro wrestling event, not pro wrestling, but the wrestling event, and gets in a brawl there.
Real American freestyle,
yeah. Dude, for a guy that is kind of like the Armenian BJ Penn, just kind of like guy that grew up wealthy and with some privilege, and like he's an extra knucklehead. Like, what a dumbass.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you're literally pissing away your chance to fight for a UFC title by just getting in random brawls.
Yeah, I know. And I watched the wrestling match. Yeah, I got a little chippy. That's happened in a million wrestling matches. I've seen wrestling matches 100 times chippier than that. And both guys, Armin overreacted to some freaking, slaps that was kind of like collatized and stuff. Like, come on. Anyways.
Not him being
I wonder if it's both guys are so fanfare because they jumped the line, but we'll see.
But yeah, that's the Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC 326, Holloway versus Oliveira 2. I have been Ben. He's been Keith. If this is your first time watching or listening to one of our previews, first of all, thank you. We hope you enjoyed it. We do our best to bring you a blend of in-depth analysis and occasional story time with Keith that we think we do as well as anybody in this industry. Please do like, subscribe. Neither of those things cost you anything. It makes our bosses happy, allows us to keep bringing you this content free of charge. Please do leave us a comment. Apparently the algorithm really likes that, but more importantly, Keith and I both man the comment section, and we'd love to hear your take on these fights. We each had some upset picks, including unanimous upset pick. Our average is pretty good on those, but let us know if you think we left any money on the table. If you're right and we're wrong, we will give you your flowers on the recap. You just need to come collect them. We are live on the Sherdog YouTube page right after the main event. Keith will take the captain's chair. We'll talk about all 13 of these fights from top to bottom, talking about what was good, what was bad, what was surprising, what was controversial. There's always something. Talking about what's next for some of the notable winners as well as losers, and talking with you. The live chat is open that whole time, so we are taking your questions, your comments, and your hot takes in real time. We have a growing community of friends that hang out with us after the fights, and we would love for you to join. Between now and then, thank you once again for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and by all means, enjoy these fights.